All right, what's up, everybody? Good to be back, as always. Yeah, so we got a new set dropping on Friday. We kind of already, we obviously already went through spoilers and everything, so that's super exciting. I got to go to one pre-release, secured a Vinsset. Everything that I wanted to happen happened, right? Um, Ended up getting in the small pod, which was an interesting experience, but you know, it happens. It happens, and that autofocus again. We're gonna go ahead and nip that in the bud. We're gonna turn that off. Let's see. Sorry, chat. Bear with me. Bear with me. Autofocus turn off. All right, we are good to go. All right, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, so we got the new set that just dropped. Super excited. We have obviously a new meta. We have a lot of changes, right? We have Oldham dipping out due to LL. We have Briar almost dipping out, but not quite. And then we have the new set. And I've had some time to brainstorm and kind of analyze cards and the new heroes and kind of get an idea of what. It's all speculation, right? I'm going to give my I'm gonna give my thoughts basically on like three scenarios. What I mean scenario is probably the wrong way to put it, but the evolution that I'm predicting. So I'm not only going to predict what's going to happen this weekend at Cincy, which is our first technical classic constructed tournament, but I'm also going to kind of try to predict what happens when we over adjust. And I'm gonna make a lot of comparisons about basically what happened with Outsiders, right? So we're gonna cover a lot, right? And we're gonna dive deep. This is gonna be not a short talk, right? So we're gonna do a little tier list thing, of course, because we wouldn't be the chart guys if we didn't, right? Yeah, and we're gonna spend about 30 minutes or so doing that. And we're gonna do some Decimator Ax Dori gameplay after we get done with the tier list. What's up, Damien? What's up, Matt? Hi from France. Let's read. That's right. I'm ready for the new meta as well. France. That was so much fun going to Pro Tour Lille. Had such a great time. Let me know where in France. Where in France? What's up, Austin? Good to see you. Thanks, everybody. I tell you what, the 20 people that were in the waiting period before the stream started, I really do appreciate it. I tell you, it goes a long way. I really do appreciate everybody being here. And yeah, so we finally got our Worlds announcement. I'm just gonna go over a couple more things, news, all that good stuff. So we got the Worlds announcement. We got the Blitz changes, right? So Blitz, you can now sideboard and present a minimum of 40 cards. That way, all your sideboarding isn't locked up in equipment, basically. They didn't extend the number of cards. They just said that you can skim down on your equipment. I think that'll present two situations. It does make Blitz a lot cheaper because your sideboard cards can just be like cheap D-reacts and you don't need like 14 pieces of equipment, stuff like that. So I think it will make Blitz a little cheaper, which is great. Blitz should be our like entry format. Obviously, the one problem is sideboarding creates another like complex layer on the introductory format, which could be good, could be bad. We don't know. You can always just not sideboard, right? Nobody's like forcing you to do so. So I don't think that is that much of a negative. I think it's just something that players are going to sit there and say, oh, you can? Cool, right? We got the Worlds announcement, right? There's no Blitz in it. Thank goodness, right? I can't tell you how... I can't explain how much I like that decision. I think it's a fantastic decision from LSS that the Worlds does not have Blitz in it. Axtor is one tier below whatever Bravo is. I'm gonna hard disagree with that, and I'll explain why. Um, but it's an interesting point. It's a comparison that has to be made, and I'm gonna go over that when I go over the list and kind of what I'm trying to do. Um, but that is a very good point that has to be addressed, right? You have to have a valid reason to not swing Anathos versus Decimator Ax, right? And I do have a very good reason, and I will explain that when we go over it. So other than that, yeah, World, super excited. Bravo. Bravo's F tier, so yeah. Super excited about Worlds. I'm currently, I think, 65th ish in constructed elo, so I need to win a few more games to kind of break into the top 50 on constructed elo to secure that Worlds invite. But I'll do my best at Battle Hardened Atlanta and US Nats. Those are my two opportunities to increase that elo to the threshold. It's only like 17 elo points, so it's not that much. So I just need to have a good overall day, preferably at both events, and we are good for Worlds, and we will be attending that event. Super excited. Starts with and ends with. Say it ain't so, chat. Barfo, jeez, a lot of Bravo hate in the chat. He's not that bad. He's just not as good as Decimator Ax Dori, I believe. And also, I'm going to explain like how you can take the same deck and kind of make it into Bolton, make it into Dori, why you would do so. I'll go over that because there are extremely different and valid reasons on why you would take the list into one hero or the other, which is very interesting. And like I said, there are very valid reasons on whether you'd go either way. So one's not particularly better. It's just how you want to attack the meta. All right. So progress on Vinsset, right? Let's kind of go over what has evolved. As far as the list that was on last stream, not much has changed. I could not, within the same 80 cards, I was not able to solve the fatigue problem and the don't give up illusionist problem, which I think are going to be two important things to in the coming meta. They're going to be very important things that you just can't ignore, and it's not going to be positive EV to do so. Therefore, I have effectively now basically dropped Vinsset. I'm no longer spending any more time until we get new cards on the hero, or until like sudden changes like another BNR or anything like that. I will not be revisiting Vinsset due to, I don't think, my predictions are that the meta will slow down, and that's not something that she has game into. I think she has to face her opponents where they kind of want to race her, and they're interacting with her on that level. But the problem is you have Ice Lexi that's going to be interacting with her on that level, and she's not going to like it. So I couldn't solve the ice problem, the fatigue problem, and the illusionist problem all within the same 80 cards. And I would go as far to say I couldn't even solve two of the three. I could build a solid deck that could win, like we saw in last stream, that had good damage output, did what it was built to do. And I tried to make some changes, and I just could not solve the things that I am going to be demanding from my deck going into national season, and the answers just are not in that card pool. I believe. I'm more than willing to be wrong. But for me to play a hero that doesn't have a real weapon, like Flail, I don't consider Flail like a real weapon because it costs a resource that is life to swing, so therefore it's not like finite, or it is finite, and you just can't swing it indefinitely as long as you have cards in your deck. I have to have a very valid reason to play that hero, and Vinsset just isn't it, unfortunately. So I do not think she's bad. I think she just does not have the toolkit to answer what the meta will be throwing at us in the coming weeks, which we'll be going into right now. So let me get caught up on chat real quick. Hot take, but Dromai is going to be really, really good. Prodigy, I don't think that's a hot take. In fact, I think that's a Channel Lake frigid take. I think I'm right there with you. I agree that she will be really, really good, 100%. She just has a very important question to answer, and it's going to be on: are you a Runeblade player? Well, Matt, that's a very good question. I have registered Runeblade in every single tournament I have ever played in Flesh and Blood, with the exception of 2. One was a ProQuest and one was an RTN, in which I registered Dori and Levia. And the Prodigy, I tell you what, you might as well do this tier list, because so far I agree 100% with you. But back to Matt. I've won a ProQuest or RTN with every single Runeblade. So yes, I am a Runeblade player. However, I'm currently at my stage as a player, and as I'm trying to kind of progress, if you will. I'm trying to kind of evolve and not stay within certain bounds. And so I'm trying to break that image, if that makes sense. I'm not actively looking away from Runeblade. I'm just asking myself, do I have an extremely valid reason to play those heroes? And if I don't have like an extremely valid reason, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And so yeah, we'll go ahead and go with the tier list. Okay, and let's see. Dromai's answer to Ninja: I'm dying this round. Maybe not. We will see. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know, but Dromai being really, really good, not gonna lie. A lot of bad matchups for it are getting better places in the meta. Yes and no. It depends on how you have to also keep in mind that Dromai is getting about 10 sideboard slots with Oldham leaving. And that's like what they do with those 10 sideboard slots is going to be huge, because I think out of all the decks in the format, they probably got the most sideboard slots with Oldham leaving. Okay. The illusionist has some spicy stuff cooked up, and we're even into Katsu. Yeah. I don't disagree, or I don't doubt it, if you will. Okay. So we're going to start things off. Obviously, like I said, we have the introduction of Vinsset here, and we have, make sure I'm on full screen. I am. Okay. We have the introduction of Vinsset into the mix, and we have upgrades on Levia. We have the new Prism, right? And then we have Oldham leaving, and then support cards a little bit for Viscerai. Not a whole lot, but just a tad. And then obviously Bolton got a huge amount of support as well. And so we're going to save them for last and kind of explain how they come into the situation that's already present. Because we need to build the scenario before they enter it, right? We need to say, okay, Oldham left. That equals this situation. Okay, then you add them, and then you can move, and then I'm going to move some stuff around. So I'm going to place some heroes in some places, and I'm going to do the tier list like the Dusk Till Dawn hero support does not exist. Okay, so I'm going to basically say, okay, Oldham left. This is the situation, and then I'll probably move based off of that, or I might do it all in one. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. And we'll just play it by ear. I think you have to play Prism as a life gain control deck. I'm not sure. I think Vinsset beats Dromai and Prism in this meta. I don't think Vinsset beats them. I know you're thinking, oh, she's got a bunch of poppers, but those are the cards that she actively wants to be playing / needs to be playing. And if she's not, then she's so below rate that the illusionist can just block and try it again next turn. And she doesn't have the like action point equity to contest with the Iris version. So I don't agree with that statement that Vinsset is good into Prism and Dromai. The Scepter's great into Ashwings, but I'm sure the Dromai players are going to realize very quickly they can't run Ashwing generation into Runeblade anymore, and they're just going to focus on like a more aggro-centric, kind of like Mara's list, but still with a couple dragons to establish board state, and basically play off of that. Is what I'm at. I'm not an illusionist player though, so I see them stepping away from Big Dragon a little bit. That is my best guess. And they're not going to be making Ashwings against Runeblade with the Scepter out. But you also can't run Scepter because it's not a finite amount of damage. It's a tough situation. It is a tough situation. Okay. So here we go. Let's start things off right. Low-hanging fruit. Arachne's the worst deck in the format. I don't think it's particularly close. And it's not that he's bad. It's that there's currently no valid reason to play him over Azuri. Okay. So that's why I think he's the worst deck in the format, is because I can't think of a valid reason on why I would play that hero over Azuri. I just can't. And if that's the case, then it has to be the worst hero in the game if you can't even think of one reason to play it. So am I saying Arachne can not win a game ever? Absolutely not. I'm just saying there's no reason to play that hero. Okay? So, worst deck in the format, right? Because there's no reason to play it. Plain and simple. Okay, let's go over to... We have to save Kano because he is kind of predicated on some other stuff. Let's talk about Riptide. Okay? I'm not saying he's 1.5. I'm just putting him there. But Regicide is bonkers, but it's also not. Poor Riptide caught a stray bullet, man. Like, you ever seen the video of like just somebody breaking up a fight and they accidentally just get haymakered in the face? Well, that's basically Riptide in a nutshell. The funniest part about the BNR article was LSS looked at the situation, right? And they were like, oh yeah, there is splash damage associated with Azalea, and they mentioned it in the article, so they had like the forethought, and amazing job. But in nowhere did they mention Riptide, and Riptide 100% runs bullseye bracers. So he just caught a stray bullet, unfortunately. And I have to put him down here. Either, I mean, there's an argument to be made that he could be on the bottom of 2. Because he's not a bad deck. He's actually not. Like the red line, the problem is if Ice Lexi shows up, he auto loses that matchup. It is an unwinnable matchup. So I'm actually going to put him at the bottom of 2. And go from there. And wins the game for my opponent. That's how I sum up the card. Riptide is a blitz deck anyways. Blitz deck that can sideboard now. How about that? Okay, let's talk about Lexi. So, we all know that she was the main target of the ban of the Bullseye Bracers, right? And what we have to look at what Bullseye Bracers does to Lexi. Like, what does it take from her? And the answer to that question is it gives a slight edge to anybody that was attempting to race her. So Katsu, Viscerai, Briar, depending on how you're playing it, because it reduces the potency of Bolton Shot and Endless Arrow, mainly just those two cards, right? There's so many times where you block like a big on hit, like a red infecting shot, and then they bullseye bracers down a Bolton Shot and then load a Endless Arrow with it and fire it. And there's just so much could be had from that one reload associated with bullseye bracers. So her burst potential is reduced. Okay, so anybody that's attempting to race her has the ability to, or has a better ability to contend on that axis, right? Second point, it makes it easier to fatigue her, plain and simple, right? If that ban happened before Oldhim was gone, Oldhim would have like an 80% win rate into her. Because she relied on that one big turn with Rain Razors or an Artivore, 3 of a kind, whatever, to really push. And also, getting rid of Bullseye Bracers really makes 3 of a kind a mid-range card versus an aggressive card. Because if you don't block any cards and you play 3 of a kind, it's very rare that you're actually going to be able to utilize every single card unless you have Shock Charmers, right? And so it really turns it into a mid-range card. So if you're fatiguing, it reduces the value of 3 of a kind because they can't just get, it lowers the ceiling on 3 of a kind effectively, right? And so if you're not trying to actively make trades, you can extract more value from 3 of a kind by blocking 2 cards and playing it, the AKA Carrion Husk, right? Fundamentally approaching Vinsset incorrectly. I would love to hear the thought process there. But there's a valid reason to play Riptide over. There's not. Yeah, you're right. There's no valid reason to play it over Azalea or Lexi. So yeah, that's a valid point. I'll put him down there. Azuri can play an Arachne deck, but with better cards. Absolutely. Where does Ice Lexi sit? That's what we're going over. We're trying to establish a baseline of how she got hit, right? Okay, so so going back, right? Oh, Big Dragon is the best it's ever been. Def the way to go to the season. That's interesting, Prodigy. I did not expect that. That is an interesting data point. Okay, so going back to Lexi. So we know how the ban affected her. Okay. So what's the number one reason people were playing Lexi? Let's identify that, and then we can kind of go where, where she would be placed. Okay. So the reason you're playing Lexi is it's the premier aggro deck, right? However, the ban gave edge to Viscerai, Briar, Phi, Katsu, Dori, Azalea, even like so many decks got a little bit of an advantage. And the only way Lexi can push that advantage back is by adding ice cards, which she has the ability to do so now because the deck that was best at fatiguing her, right? Just she has the sideboard slots, right? So she can add, basically take the Wolfpack list. If you remember in Pro Tour, the Wolfpack list ran like the bajillion winners bites and whatever, but that list was inadvertently worse into Oldhim, but better in like the mirror match and whatever. Well, imagine if you could even tweak it slightly more toward ice, right? Maybe 3 or 4 more cards, or maybe shift away from Winter's Bite and go more toward like Ice Quake and, Blizzard Bolt and stuff like that to just and then throw in Shock Charmers, right? Anybody that's not blocking you is going to have a very, very hard time. So if the Lexi deck builders can present the ice but not get fatigued by random decks that are full of 3 blocks, you probably have the best deck in the format, with the exception of Dromai, maybe. Because Dromai is going to be very easily able to answer that, right? So that's the big question, is can someone produce a Lexi list that has a heavy ice package that's interchangeable? Or it doesn't even have to be interchangeable. It just, we're not talking like old school Ice Lexi where it was like all about fusing every single turn. We're still trying to use the amazing cards that she got in Outsiders, right? We don't want to give up Infecting Shot and stuff like that. We're just talking about going a little bit more ice than the Wolfpack list from Pro Tour. Okay? And if she can do that, then she's in tier 0. There's no question. She's in tier 0. And to be honest with you, she might be in tier 0 even if she can't. Okay. Let me put it this way. So before, if you were an aggro deck, right? Katsu and Viscerai really were the only ones that could actually compete on a like strict race. You could say 5, but I don't believe that one. Katsu and Viscerai are the only ones that could theoretically race Lexi before the ban, right? And with that being said, if she goes toward the ice package, can those decks fall on a defensive posture and just outvalue? That is the ultimate question if that happens. Big Dragon gets Flicker, Trick, Lost in Thought, Hold the Line. While getting Tim. Yeah, I agree. So I think Lexi's just 0, whether they solve the ice or not. I think you have to. And when I say tier 0, I'm not suggesting that she needs another ban, right? I'm just saying that she is among the best decks in the format. The ice will help with Azuri, absolutely. She just needs to guarantee that she has enough throughput to close that matchup. That's the only thing. If she cannot get fatigued by random decks like Warrior, Bravo, any deck with just a bunch of 3 blocks. If she can't get fatigued by those and can still disrupt the aggro decks, she's solid. She's like super solid. Maybe as far as Ice Quake, but not to the level of Polar Blast and Chill to the Bone. Absolutely agree. Azuri will pivot to a blue-based deck. Yeah, and she's going to be swinging her little 1-damage weapons a lot more too, which makes her even lower below rate, right? I do think Azuri got better, but she's got a real big problem, and that's going to be right here that she's not going to be able to deal with. So I'm gonna finalize putting Lexi in tier 0. Am I saying she's the best deck in the format? Absolutely not. Not yet. I'm just saying that currently where things stand, because we have to base a lot of heroes off of that, right? It's extremely valid. Let's talk about Azalea. Let's go and get the rest of the Rangers out of the way. Azalea is a very interesting one because she gained a lot from Oldham leaving. Okay. And so that's like a win, right? The problem, the biggest problem is this deck right here, right? Historically, this matchup right here has been Azalea favored, right? But the more ice that Lexi throws in, the more you're going to have to run more blues, more yellows, and that's just going to decrease the efficiency of your play. And plus, there is that blue card. What is it? Warmonger's Retreat or whatever, the War or Peace selection card, whatever that one. Um, that card literally dunks on both these rangers, but I would argue it probably dunks on Azalea even more because she really relies on the pumps, like really relies on them. And because a lot of times when you play that against Lexi, you're just getting her Snapdragons. Now, if you play it when she doesn't have Snapdragons, then it can be huge. Let me get caught up in chat. I'm just hearing more reasons to keep playing Icelander. Don't mention Prism, please. Ice Lexi needs a lot more reps to be piloted well compared to Fuseless. Absolutely agree with that. 100%. It's a much more difficult deck to play. Still behind a little further. I've watched a couple of your videos. Seems like you're trying to force Vinsset to answer meta questions from the same angle as you would Chain or Viscerai. I'm not. I've built since the spoilers came out, I've probably built anywhere between 12 to 13 decks. All of them answering all sorts of different questions. I've tried Nebula Blade. I've tried the Scepter / Flail. I've tried Rosetta. I've tried Reaping Blade. I've literally tried the deck in so many different ways. The reason that's the one you saw in the last stream was because it was the most effective I was able to build. Yes, you're right. She doesn't capitalize from the same lines as other rune blades. So you have to ask yourself, why does somebody play? Sorry for the detour, everybody, but I just got to answer this. Why does somebody play Rune Blade? That's a big question to answer, right? We're going to get back to it. We're not done with Azalea. She's not 1.5. I'm just putting her there for the time being. Why would somebody play Rune Blade? The reason somebody plays Rune Blade is you have to like to gamble a little bit, right? The class is designed to have a hard ratio of non-attacks and attacks. Anytime you incorporate hard ratios into a deck, you increase this thing called inconsistency. Okay? Now, if the developers built the class and it inherently is inconsistent, what do they have to do to make the class viable? They have to give it explosive turns to offset the inconsistencies, right? So when you play Rune Blade, you're asking to play high highs and low lows is what you're literally asking to do. Vinsset doesn't have any high highs, but she has some super low lows. She can still brick like the other two. Just the same. You give her a frostbite, she also has a stroke, right? Just like the other two. There's no advantage that Vinsset receives apart from the other Rune Blades. But the other Rune Blades can just win a game out of nowhere, which is a lot of the reason why you play Rune Blade. And so you have all the downside associated with being a Rune Blade, but none of the upside. And therefore, that's why it just makes it an average deck, unfortunately. So that's my my tangent on Viscerai, or not Viscerai, but Vinsset, and why I don't think she's the best. But like I said, I'm happy to be wrong. I've just been playing Runeblade for 2 years, and I'm telling you, I've built so I didn't just add Rosetta because it's the best weapon in the game. I didn't just throw it in there and say, look, we're playing Vinsset with Rosetta. It has to be the best. No, I tried everything. I tried to build a deck that its sole purpose was one cost non-attack action with Go Again Nebula Blade, and then grind them out that way. And then occasionally make some bigger plays with like Tunic Counter, Oath of the Arknight. I'm telling you, I tried everything with that hero. But I've digressed enough. We're going to get back to Azalea. Okay. So the reason you would play Azalea, and because you were favored into Lexi. You had a bad Oldhim matchup, but that's now gone. You do have a bad Dromai matchup, right? It's not great. Okay. And the problem is that if the Lexis go ice, like I believe they will, then you lose that matchup. I think it becomes Azalea like unfavored for her. And I don't know, like, who are you targeting, right? If you're playing Azalea, you're targeting aggro decks. 100% agree, right? Azalea is going to stomp the shit out of Briar. She's going to beat Fi, Viscerai, you know, all your aggro decks. She's going to tear them up. But so does this deck, right? So she's good. And so I'm going to place her in either 1.5 or 1. It depends on what other hero. I'm going to throw her in 1.5. But then we might move her up to 1 depending on what other heroes get placed. And I'll make like a rational analysis, basically. I just want someone to solve the mega well turns where you have a bunch of action points via eloquence and have a Mordred active. But yeah, that's not looking likely. Absolutely. Sorry, Donkle. Can't. A lot of heroes can target Lexi's hand. But I don't know if you're here for the first part. The only reason that Arachne is at the bottom is because there's no reason to play. There's no reason to play Arachne over Azuri. Simple as that. I think he's an okay deck. He's not the best, but he's not like you can't win a game, right? Both of these heroes. If the format speeds up and there's no ice here, Riptide's a real deck. That's all it takes. That is literally all it takes. And Riptide's in there like swimwear, bro. Okay, so I'm gonna place Azalea at 1.5, at the top of 1.5, and might even move her to 1 once we place more heroes. And kind of talk through and say, oh, because at the end, what I want to do is I want to take each hero and say, how do they perform into the heroes at the top, right? And then we're going to incorporate these guys at the end. The spicy stuff at the end, right? So let's talk about Bravo. We had some Bravo hate in the chat. I'm in the same agreeance that Bravo's just not it. Is he bad? No, Bravo's not bad. But everybody says that Bravo is bad at math, and it's because he is. And I understand he got starstruck. Or is it starstruck? Whatever that yellow card is in Dusk Till Dawn. And it's a good card. It's an amazing card. And it's probably going to take the place of like Choke Slam or Disable, whichever your like last red was. You're going to throw that in there. Or you might take out D-Reacts and just go all aggressive, right? Or take out your Sync Blow. And that's like a valid option, but it doesn't change the fundamental issue that Bravo has. Oh, and I hope Kelvin Creeth is in the chat and can tell me I'm wrong. But Bravo doesn't lose the game because of the quality of his reds. He loses the game because he doesn't draw one. Because to play all of his cards, he needs to run 40, 43 blues, whatever the number is. I'm not a big Bravo player. I've played it a little bit, but I mean, that's how it always happens. It's like, yeah, you're going to do, we've all seen those games where it's dominate spinal, dominate crippling, dominate, and they win, right? They win hands down. It's not even a close game. And we've also seen where they go dominate spinal, dominate crippling, and the opponent uses all their armor and stops all the on-hand effects, presents a little damage, and then they draw like a bunch of blues. And they just lose the game. And I 100% agree with Matt. He's just fundamentally boring. That's another weakness. No, I'm just kidding. I respect Bravo play. I think to do very well with Bravo, you have to have very, very, like, you have to have very strong fundamentals. And then, so anybody that excels, like Kel McCreath, you know, he would do just fine playing any hero. Would he do as well? You know, if you gave him enough reps, sure. But he has a very good fundamental understanding of the game because he's able to do well with that hero. And Starstruck is better than Spinal Crush. I 100% agree. Like, it's an amazing card. But I caveat, you know, you play it, you get all the tempo in the world, and then you draw 4 blues. And then what are you doing? Right? Starstruck does not fix his absolute worst matches. It does not. Starstruck is just another good red. I use the quotations of red attack. It's something that can't go in the spot of a blue, right? And Starstruck is just another good card. But the problem is you're running 40 below rate cards to support the 20 good cards. And if you don't draw one of the 20 good cards, or you draw all 4 copies of 20 good cards, or even just 3 or 2, you don't have a hand. And so I would have to put Bravo, my final placement for Bravo will have to be at the bottom of 1.5, maybe the middle. We'll come back once heroes are placed and kind of get an idea on the meta. I will say that the one thing that I think Bravo really has going for him is a solid Dromai matchup. Because if the Dromai players over pivot and like just say, I would make the bet. I don't know how accurate this is, but this is a bet I would make. And I think a lot of illusionist players are just going to say, look, we're just going to give up the Guardian match. Or not give it up, but just... And when I say... I'm not talking about Prism. I'm talking about Dromai. You know, they're not going to keep the same amount of cards that they had for Oldham in for Bravo. Because I don't even think it's the same match, right? I think they could get away with just being slightly more aggressive with just attack actions, right? And taking things that way. Need to have 3 cards tear asunder. Good luck consistently keeping that many cards and not taking 15 damage from Lexi Yellow. Yep. Exactly. Well said, Daniel. Like, literally. And what makes the Lexi matchup even worse is now they're gonna play armor there, right? They're gonna play Hornet Sting. Now you might say, oh, it's just 1 armor, but that makes the difference between a crush effect happening or not, because crush effect's threshold is so low with it having to deal 4 damage. So I'm going to place Bravo at the bottom of 1.5, but I'll revisit this one as well. These two are solidified. I'm sorry. And so is this one. But we'll revisit anything in like these three categories based off of like what's up here, right? So let's hit the next one. Let's do Phi. Yep. Bravo kills you with tempo. Ultimate much slower. Absolutely. It's like a different set. So the one thing that might push Bravo to bottom of tier 1 is that he has a good Dromai matchup. And so now we're going to talk about good old Phi. I'm not saying he's one. I'm just putting him there. So Phi is an interesting one. Actually, we're actually going to do both ninjas at the same time. I think you have to. Right? And they're kind of asking the same argument. Okay? So just for hindsight, like I said, I don't hold much back on these streams. I like to present all the information that I have. I don't like keeping secrets or anything like that. These are the two heroes that I'm experimenting with the most currently. I am currently trying to do a defensive ninja deck for nationals. Turtle Katsu, if you will, whatever you want to call it. Control 5, whatever. I'm currently experimenting. It is going well. It is going very well. And I think they're real contenders. The one matchup that needs the most work is obviously Dromai, because if you pivot into that defensive posture, they're going to eat you alive. Right? And Kadachi E-Strike. Throwback to the old video. The old video. Oh man, that was so funny. Yes. So the reason. Okay. So why am I testing defensive ninja? Well, the simple answer is I don't think they're gonna be. If Lexi goes ice, they can't offensively race her. You just can't. You ever tried to get a card off Katsu effect when you have no cards in hand? It doesn't work, right? When you have to pitch 2 cards to surging and you had to block something to stop an on-hit effect the last turn, like you're gonna get destroyed. Flick Flack, yeah, imagine pitching for it. Like it just, I don't think they're going to they're not gonna have the ability to race Lexi if she goes with the heavy ice package. I don't think she'll have the ability. Okay? What they can do is establish a defensive posture, run Tunic to cover for the Frostbite on the D-React, right? Oh, you gave me a Frostbite? Well, let me just Kadachi one cost card, whatever the case may be, right? Instead of Kadachi one cost card. Okay? And then just beat Lexi on the field of attrition because she lost a lot of her explosiveness. So all you're doing by leveraging that strategy is you're exploiting the fact that Lexi lost her explosiveness. And you're going into her game plan how she doesn't want you to do it. She wants you to race her. Right? Imagine Shock Charmers when you're blocking everything. It's a waste of equipment. It other than keeping channel around, sure. So you posture like you're fatiguing. They try to sit up. You get a mass trigger. Right? That is what I'm currently experimenting with, and it's doing amazingly well. The one downside is Dromai. I'm having to spend a lot more time on that matchup and come up with some very creative things. And yeah, so I think these decks are very good. I think they have a very, because either way, right? If Lexi goes heavy ice, they take a defensive posture. If she doesn't, then they take the aggressive posture, right? So within the card pool of both of these heroes, they have an answer to whatever the meta presents. So I think taking Ninja to the first event, like Cincinnati, would be a terrible idea. I think it'd be a very, very bad move. However, the event after that, I think you could easily take it down because you know whether to lean more aggressively. And then you just have the net equity of your opponent guessing which version you are and being wrong, right? And yeah, so I think both of these decks are easily in one. I'm going to leave them right where they are. Probably put Katsu ahead. Katsu or Fi better for the defensive stance? That's the best question we've had in chat so far. Amazing question. And I've spent 2 hours before thinking of that exact question. And this is what I've come up with. I'll share it. I got no qualms. The answer is Fi. Why is it Fi? You have access to Furnace. Okay? If you're taking on a defensive posture, are you activating combo lines? The answer is no. Right? So, Katsu's hero ability, non-existent. Okay? You have more cards in your card pool for Fi. You get more of a surprise element when you play Fi. You have access to things like Breaking Point. Right? Like I mentioned before, you have Furnace. You have so many more tools within Fi's toolkit to be defensive. Now, I'll caveat that. Right? I will caveat that with the fact that Katsu is the better aggressive ninja. Okay? So that's why they're both in one. I don't think one is particularly ahead of the other. I think if you're running a more defensive posture, I think Fi is the better list. Just, you have a bigger card pool. It's as simple as that. It's no more complex than that. You're not utilizing either one of their hero abilities. You're just literally looking at the card pool and you have more cards. Simple as that. Yes, it took me 2 hours to think of that. So anytime I build a deck, right, and there's like multiple classes within, or multiple heroes within a class when I'm setting out to build a new deck, I spend the most time deciding which of the two, why I'm playing this hero over this hero. And I literally have to force myself to just really have 100% solid answer for that question. I think it's a very important one. But after all the research, all the deck building both, multiple versions, aggressive, defensive, there's more cards. It's that simple. There's more cards in Fi. Katsu's better offensively because, well, he has way more on-hit effects. We're getting to a point in Flesh and Blood where damage is not enough. Raw damage is not enough if you're playing on the aggressive axis. It just isn't. We have gotten to that point in Flesh and Blood. Okay? And we've also gotten to the point to where on-hit effects without damage isn't good enough. Just had to throw some more shade at Bravo, Like I said, we're going to revisit these two when we analyze like what's going on up here. So I'm going to leave both of these guys up at 1. because they need a little information where things currently stand so they know which way to lean. I'm not saying defensive is the way to go right now or offensive. I'm just saying that I'm working on the defensive posture more than I am the offensive because of the way I think the meta will shake out. I think this girl is going to have some icicles to throw at us, right? Let's talk about Ed. I know you think Bravo is great. I know. Let's talk about some more frostbites. Let's talk about Icelander. Icelander. Okay. Approaching Icelander, we have to define why she wasn't good in the last meta. Donkle, you killing me. You know they're adding Icelander for me. Oh man. Before we get into Icelander, if anybody's looking for just to have a good old time, hop in our Discord. I'm telling you, there's every single evening, there's like anywhere between 4 to 10 people just hanging out in there. We get a little crazy sometimes, but it's so much fun. I'm telling you, it's a good time. Hop in there, don't be shy. Hang out with us. Everybody's more than welcome. Just hop in our Discord. The link is in the description, and just hang out with us. The old general voice chat between the hours of 6 and 12 at night, bro. It's a hoot. I'll tell you guys. Okay, so back to Icelander, and Donkel's a good reason. Good reason for that. So Icelander, why was she not good in the last meta? We have to predicate her placement on that question, right? Icelander was not good in the last meta because of old girl up here. Lexi just dunked on her. Wounded Bull is great until you're dead. Like that, she didn't have enough turn cycles to execute value because Lexi would just blow her up, literally. So that's what makes Icelander so good. Anytime you can, that's why she was like back when Fi had Belittle, like it wasn't that good of a matchup, because exactly, Wounded Bull is great until you have to block with it. That's a fact. And so Icelander just could not compete against Lexi. Simple as that. Had a little bit of game into Azalea because she could provide some disruption. She was great into Oldhim. That was her food, right? And so her meal ticket done left, right? So one of her best matchups left. The Discord might feel like zoomed in on the Zaza dude. Like, oh man, I'm telling you, if you're not in the Discord, you're missing out. If anybody needs to get caught up, we have a quotes section. Feel free to have a read through. And so her food, aka Oldhim, has left the game, or this format at least. So she takes a huge hit there, right? And this matchup, let's talk about Bullseye Bracers and how it impacts the Icelander matchup because it's very intricate, right? Now Lexi has to make a choice. She no longer gets everything in one piece of equipment, right? Bullseye Bracers had AB1. It had explosive potential, which is a deadly combination for Icelander, right? And if Lexi, what made the AB1 on the Bullseye Bracers so strong is there were so many turns where you would like not block defensively because you wanted the extra resources to make sure you could pay through any disruption in case they like blew Winter's Bite from Arsenal or something, right? Or whatever they did, Channel Lake Frigid, whatever the case would be. So a lot of time you like just had an extra blue in your hand for like literally no reason except disruption. Well, in the event that the disruption wasn't that heavy on Icelander's side, Lexi had the ability at no cost, literally, no opportunity cost. You had to pay into AB, but the opportunity cost was non existent. She could just, when she had a good read on what the disruption was for that turn, she could pay resources into the AB and mitigate damage and not be punished by holding back for disruption. However, now Lexi has to make a choice every single turn cycle. She has to say, do I hold this extra blue? And just carry it over and lose all the value associated with it? Or do I get shut down by disruption, right? And whether she runs the armor or and on top of that, she also has to, does she want to run AB? Like, it's a valid question. It literally is it's an extremely valid question of, does Lexi even run AB? Extremely valid. And so it did help a lot. But if you want my honest opinion, I don't think it did enough. I think this matchup was 75-25 in Lexi's favor. I think now it's probably 60-40. Maybe. Yeah. I think it's still Lexi favored, but like, it's not atrocious. But she lost Oldham, right? Like, that's the matchup she wanted. So I'm going to put Icelander at the bottom of 1.5 currently. I'm gonna leave her where she's at. Okay. Run Trench. Lexi was and still is a worse matchup for Icelander than Dromai. 100%. I agree. Like I said, it's still a bad matchup, but it did get a little better. She got some percentage points. It just wasn't enough, right? If you go a defensive posture on either one of these heroes, you can catch Icelander off guard. She sides out the Frost tech. Like, she's going to be, all because of Lexi going ice. We're going to have this weird dichotomy where there's a lot of defensive capabilities and decks that are not usually defensive. And so she loses sideboard flexibility because she's going to have to run Frost Hex into everybody. Which, I mean, it's a blue block 3. It's like not that much opportunity cost, but like, Hamilton used to like side out Frost Hexes against like Briar and stuff like that, right? And because there were cards that just did more, right? But you lose that, right? You can't swap in your brain freeze or anything like that because you can't afford to be caught without it. Because you could just, out of nowhere, get fatigued. Literally. Okay, so I'm going to put her at the bottom of 1.5. However, I will caveat, out of all the heroes available in Classic Constructed Flesh and Blood right now, the two heroes that I would label as the dark horses of this CC format would be Icelander. And you guessed it, not Levia, Rhinar. Those are my two dark horses. I think if enough deck building and problem solving is completed, I think those two decks have the most to gain from solving the meta. Terrible week 1 picks, but after that, they could really take some tournaments down. In that season, they're going to be here to stay. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Lexi goes ice. I agree. But the problem, if you don't go like, and once again, I have to, in case anybody's joining like recently, when I say ice Lexi, I'm not talking like Death Dealer ice Lexi. I'm not even talking like heavy ice. I'm talking Wolfpack Pro Tour 2, or 3, sorry. Pro Tour 3 Lexi list with a little bit more ice in Shock Charmers, right? Maybe a Blizzard Bolt or 2, you know, a couple more cards to just really... The Lexi list that was worse into Oldhim but better in the mirror, that list. But with a little bit more ice. I'm not talking about all in. Give it to me straight. Is Rhinar Dark Horse Cope? What's the angle there? Okay. So, Matt, I think it's all in the helmet. Now, okay. Let me explain the Rhinar. You know, let's just do Rhinar next. Let's do Rhinar next. So, because I can't just do that to you guys, right? I can't say, oh yeah, he's the dark horse, and then like save him for last, right? That would be so fucked up. So let's do it now, okay? Why is Rhinar the dark horse? And I'm not saying he's 1.5. He's taking a break, right? He's just petting his goat, whatever it is in the picture. He's chilling there for a minute. All right, we're going to move him to his appropriate spot that he deserves, which might be right where he's at. I don't know. We'll figure that out. So the reason I think Rhinar is a dark horse is you have, once again, it's all based on the preconception that Lexi leans more ice, which I really do believe will happen. Because if they don't, the Lexis are going to get outraced by the Viscerais. They're going to get outraced by the Doris. They're definitely losing Dromai now, because at least the ice version has the ability to like tax, you know, kind of shut down D reacts by giving frostbites, things like that. You're not out racing Katsu without bullseye bracers. You're just not, right? So the reason I think, and you'll have to, we got Man Sand in the chat, right? You'll have to excuse me on my, if you're just now hopping in, I said Rhinar was the dark horse and not Levia, and that's because I think once Rhinar has his solution within the meta, Levia could follow behind. I don't know enough about Levia yet. I think Levia falls in a category of she doesn't have a target yet. She has multiple different avenues in which she can be built, and like situations she can attack, but she's like a loaded gun with nothing to shoot, or nothing to shoot at, right? It's just chilling there, right? But Rhinar is just something that's already there. He got a huge improvement. And Rhinar can fatigue Ice Lexi. If he's built correctly, he can race Fuseless Lexi. He can... You want to run Defensive Ninja into Rhinar? Really? He's going to like intimidate your only blue. Then what are you going to do? Right? He's got that one. Is he going to struggle into the aggressive versions? Yes. And that's why the Dark Horse aspect of Rhinar is reliant on the ice here, pivoting these guys to a defensive posture. Okay? So if Lexi goes ice, it forces these into a defensive posture, which lets Rhinar thrive. This has always been an easy matchup for Rhinar. This one will be easy, or I won't say easy, but it'll probably be close to 50-50. Azalea might be a little rough. Rhinar's got game into Dromai, especially if she stays like Big Dragon. I'm telling Rhinar, but the problem is if Lexi doesn't go ice, Rhinar completely falls apart. Everything I just said is completely irrelevant. Right? So much is reliant on Lexi going ice. But if she does, I'm telling you, Rhinar is where it's at. Rhinar is where it's at. So with that being said, I'm going to put Rhinar at the bottom of tier 1. I think he's a good deck. I really do. I don't know if you're memeing, man, Sam, about about the rock deck, but I'm just talking about just traditional Rhinar, maybe built, you know, freed up some sideboard slots against Oldham, you know, have a little bit more of a aggressive posture with a couple cards, you know, whatever. You have the helmet is huge. I'm telling you, the helmet is the game changer. Okay, so my final placement until we at the end when we kind of like talk about some things and we might move it around just a little bit, right? Okay. Who are we going to do next? Who is next? Let's talk about Dash. Let's talk about Dash. Dash is a very interesting one because much like Rhinar, she's very... Her identity is going to be predicated on what Lexi does. Okay. I think the best version of Dash is going to be heavy boost. And then against Lexi, you'll just run like back where we right after Talishar Dash went away, and we had like this heavy boost Dash with like a sideboard pistol plan. I think that's what she'll fall back onto. You might give up the Bravo match, but I think that's okay. And that way, if you still have the pistol, everything blocks 3. If Lexi ends up being fatigue or ends up being ice, you can probably fatigue her. And if she is going the fuseless route, then I think you can still just outrace her. I really do. Bullseye bracers, it hurt, right? So I think Dash is in a very similar spot as Rhinar. Defensive ninja into Dash, I don't see. That's the thing. Like, it's all on the Dash player to be right. If you go boost into the ninjas, you just lose, right? So I think that's an unfavorable matchup for Dash solely on the aspect of that. They have the opportunity to be wrong. You're probably okay into Azalea because you have the D-Reacts and the sideboard package. You're probably going to give up the Bravo matchup, and you've always been pretty decent after Hypothermia was gone into Icelander because you have the Natty AB on the head slot and the boots. So I'm going to put Dash probably at the top of 1.5, maybe below Azalea. I think that's a solid placement. But once again, so much of her is predicated on whether Lexi goes ice or not. So much of it. Will Mech Dash be something? Probably not. Can't really think. I mean, there's not really too much to... I mean, Dash hasn't gotten a new card since a minute, right? Pulse Wave Harpoon was the last actual good card that she got. There's nothing to solve. It's basically just how you're going to build her to attack the meta. Simple as that. Did you see they're adding dash into? Oh my god! Here we go. Oh, what did you start, Donkle? What did you start? Ed, that's a very good point. The fact that she's as strong as she is and has the smallest card pool in the game, it is insane. It is. It's actually insane. And it's not like she has the smallest card pool by like a little bit. I think it's a lot. I'm interested if somebody's done the math or anything, but I bet she has the smallest card pool by a long shot. I think we're gonna go where she's from in the next set, though. I think the next set it's all mech, not all, but like she's gonna get the Lexi treatment. I think, my opinion, but and pure speculation, obviously. To the new heroes, give us a little taste. All right, I'll do one new hero. Let's do Bolton. I say new hero. I mean, like, Dust Till Dawn supported new hero, right? Okay. Okay, how? Yes, the merchants have the smallest card pool in the game. That is a fact, but we're talking about real heroes. Not side hustlers. Imnar did a card pool analyzation. Could be wrong. Oh, that'd be interesting to look into. If the next set is all wizard set, James. He said that there was one in the works. He didn't say that it was next. Bolton is a new hero. It kind of is. Oh, here we go. Did you see they're adding Bolton? Fortnite? This is killing me. Okay, so let's talk about Bolton. We're gonna be here a sec because this is an important one. Like, so much is changing. Spoiler alert, I don't think that much changed. Well, let me okay. So anybody that watched our games, the games that I played with Josh on the last stream against his slew of Bolton decks, he was running, I think, anywhere between like 12 and 13 bannerets, right? For those of you who don't know, those are the cards that give you an advantage when they are charged, right? It's like charging is a bad mechanic, so here's a way to get a payoff every time you do it to increase the value. The problem was he would draw multiple in one hand and they were just bad, but also they didn't serve any other purpose because they're very bad rate other than like 1-for-4s, right? And it's not where you want to be. I mean, they are yellow, I'll give you that, but like if you draw 3 in a hand, you're just dead in the water. Like, it's real bad unless you can double charge, which is only like V. And Bolton goes tier 2 because it's yellow. That's a good one. That's a good one. So the one thing that Bolton got, and we're gonna get into why I think Bolton got a huge upgrade, or I think we have all this hype around the light cards and, you know, bannerets and all that. I don't think any of that shit matters. I think the best card Bolton got was the damn axe. The Decimator Ax. And like I said, I promised everybody we're doing gameplay after the tier list. I'm going to be playing the Dori version. But like I said, I'm going to go over why you would put the same list into Bolton and change just like 6 cards or so, and it be just amazing, right? I'm going to go over all that. But I think the axe. So Dori is not the better axe. When I say axe, I mean Decimator Ax, not the Hatchet of Mind and Body. Specifically Decimator Ax. I would never run. There's no reason to run. Like, if you're running the axes, there's no reason you wouldn't run Dori because you want to swing a 3rd time. But for Decimator Ax, there's a very important interaction. I'll give you a little taste test. There's one card in the Bolton toolkit that has the ability to really tame Icelander if she takes off. And I think that's the reason you would run Bolton Decimator Axe over Dori. And it's like the silver bullet of silver bullets. Okay. So there's your little taste test to keep you keep you here. We'll get into that after the tier list. We're almost there. So Bolton got an upgrade, but I think it's all in the Decimator Axe. Simple as that. I think that's the best way to build Bolton. If you build like the zero cost Raiden build, you're not as aggressive as the other aggro decks. You still lose to Lexi. You still have a stroke when you get a. I think Bolton's still paying on Frostbites like he's paying on student loans. I mean, when your whole deck's yellow and like half your cards cost 1, and you're still trying to do something actively with the other resource already, then it's bad. It gets bad real quick. And you're just not operating on that high of a value axis as a lot of these other decks. And the bannerets they just weren't enough. They just weren't. Combo, there's so many things in the game that kind of blow out the idea of doing combo Bolton. I think if you could do Decimator and then like a combo sideboard, I think that would be really, really good. Be very difficult though because you have to run a very high blue count in Decimator Ax, so that probably wouldn't work in the same 80. But if you can do it, holy shit, that's the list. But yeah, I think Bolton is okay. A lot of people are gonna give me shit for this, and no, I'm not putting him in tier 2. Because it's yellow. I'm going to put him at the bottom of 1.5. Because it's slightly yellow. How you like that, Chet? So that's where I think he's at. Nothing to do with any of the cards except Decimator Ax. I think it opens up a play pattern that's very good. Very good. Ice taxes hurt when you're paying bills with yellowed cash. Yep, pitching paycheck to paycheck, right? All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's talk about Kano. We got Justin in chat. Let's go ahead and make him mad. This deck's trash. Okay. There's no other way to put it. Still bad into Lexi. Nothing's changed. If these decks go burr, you're bad into them. If they're defensive, they're going to have Oasis Respite. And you don't know that. Rhinar's never been a good matchup. Azalea's not fantastic. Like, who are you beating up here? Bolton? This was the freest match of the century for Kano. And he's gone. This is the whole reason you played him. Did you know they're not adding Kano into Fortnite? They said it wasn't worth the pixels. No. It's not that Kano's bad. It's that this just isn't his meta. Okay. So the idea here is use the philosophy of the first thing that people cut when they have to make sideboarding decisions is what, chat? AB. We've been there 1,000 times. Oh, I really need to fit these CNCs into the list. I don't know what to cut. And then you look down at AB3 and you say, oh yeah, there's going to be 2.5 Kanos in the room, right? And you chop 2 of them bitches out. Like, everybody's been there in that situation. Everybody. Right? Well, let's flip the script. Oldham just left the format, everybody. Everybody just gained 3 sideboard slots. when you fire up your Fabrary and you haven't looked at anything and you're just looking at those 3 empty spots where Remembrance used to be, or Rites of Replenishment used to be, or whatever the case may be, what are you going to put in there as a little placeholder until you do more research? More fucking AB. That's right. Yep. That's why he's going in 2. The top of 2. But I think he's in tier 2. I just think that kind of suffering from the same thing as Icelander, where their best matchup just went away. Plus Prism. Like that's a real thing. So I'm gonna have to shit on Kano a little bit. I'm sorry, Justin. I don't think that's where it's at. Okay. All right, so we're gonna put Kano at the top of 2 because there's no one else there. All right. Let's talk about one of the Rune Blades. Let's talk about Viscerai. Rhinar, I believe, is tier 1. Bottom of tier 1. But I think he's there. Not at all, but let Nathan believe. Oh man, Sam, are you saying he might convince some force? I highly recommend you go back and watch. If you're just now joining, go back and listen to the reasoning on Rhinar, and his placement is very okay. I think because the placement is so situational, we might have to drop him to the top of 1.5. You tell me, Chad, if that's fair or not. Because my whole argument was Rhinar was Rhinar's strength is predicated on Lexi being iced to slow these decks down and combat them. And then basically attacking the meta that way. But if that doesn't happen, he's one of the worst decks in the format. It's literally that polarizing. So I guess we have to put him at the top of 1.5 because I can't just say, oh, this is the top end, right? And just put him there. That's a valid point. Let me know, chat, if you agree. If he should be at the top of 1.5 or the bottom of 1 based off of that analysis. So let's go back to Viscerai. You know they're adding... You're killing me. The headpiece is what Rhinar gains. It's so good. The Briar main talking people into playing Brute. I wonder why. Man, the helmet shits on Briar. That's the problem. Like, I can't end the combat chain with a snatch anymore. That shit's gonna get intimidated. So, yeah, top of 1.5. Okay. We'll agree at top of 1.5. That's fair. So let's get back on Viscerai. That's not his placement. We're talking right now about our first Rune Blade. Viscerai is a very interesting pick. So if you look at the meta, let's assume nobody changed their deck list and Oldhim left the meta. And then the ban was effective, right? If nobody changed their list except for the Lexis that had to take Bullseye Bracer out and Oldhim was gone, I think Viscerai is one of the best decks in the format. Literally. He solves 90% of the problems. Good into Dromai. He can actually race Lexi now. Like, he just does it all. If somebody goes too defensive on him, he postures up, has an explosive turn, drops him 30 damage in one turn, right? He has that ability. However, fucking frostbites, man. Literally. Like, literally frostbites. If Lexi goes ice, Viscerai's in a very rough spot. Like, that matchup is so atrocious. It's not even funny. Because what a frostbite does in Viscerai specifically is it completely invalidates the Rosetta Thorn. It literally just... The only thing you can do is take your Shrills, turn them into like one cost attacks like Meet and Greet and Spellblade Strikes, things that have like a one cost curve so you can fit in the Frostbite. And his 2 new cards will not help, and I'll explain why. Yeah, anytime Lexi can convert a Frostbite into 4 damage, it's insane. Literally. Yeah, I agree with Taylor. Exactly. Not because we have the same last name, but I mean, if Lexi gives 1 Frostbite, Viscerai is going to have a stroke. It's that bad. I think Viscerai, I mean, okay. I think Viscerai's specialization is one of the worst cards in the new set. Let's go ahead and jump over this hurdle. Okay. Why do I think it's one of the worst cards in the new set? Because it just doesn't make any sense. The only way, okay, so first you have to assume that you're carrying over Rune Chance from a previous turn. Right? Which means you did not swing Rosetta Thorn. But Light Bulb, that's what the whole fucking deck is designed to do. So if you don't do the one thing that your deck is designed to do, the card could be worth 4 value. Okay? But if you don't, then it's an IP penalty. You get 1 Rune Chant out of it. Literally. It is one of the worst cards in the new set by far. It's not even close. Okay? Let's talk about the other Runeblade card that he got. I don't remember the name of it, but if I'm not mistaken, it's a 1 cost, and it's reduced by the number of rune chants you have, and it pumps the next attack by 3. Next Runeblade attack. I think it even says attack action card. So it would not make your Rosetta Thorn come in for 5. The one good thing about it is it has the discount wording, so it can actually get rid of a Frostbite. The bad part is you're never playing that when you would have the Frostbite. So it is Runeblade Nimblism, but this is going to sound crazy, and I'm going to repeat what I said in the video I did with Josh. It is literally equally as hard of a card to pull off as Revel in Runeblood. Now I know, chat. You're thinking this dude's off his rocker. He's given up on Runeblade. Okay, but hear me out. Hear me out. For you to play that card, you have to already have a rune chant. Right? Which means you needed to... We already talked about the one fucking thing the deck's supposed to be doing is swinging Rosette at the end of the turn. So let's assume at the start of your turn, you don't have a rune chant. Well, you're not paying 1 to play it because then it fucks your whole curve up. So if you play a card to make a rune chant, that implies that you have to have played a non-attack action before you play this card. Step 1. Step 2. Well, sorry, you would have had to have played 2 cards. You have to play the non-attack and then either an attack or another non-attack to create a rune chant. Ding, 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 ding. That's the same fucking text as Revel and Runeblood, right? The only difference is you could technically play 2 non-attacks. But it still only fits into the equation if you have played 2 cards prior and you intend on playing a card after. Okay? With the exception of Runeblood Incantation. It's the only exception. Okay? So, it's equally as hard to pull off as, say, Revel and Runeblood, and there's not as high of a payoff, unfortunately. So, it's an okay card. Like, it is a card that could see some play, but it's not a home run. And its specialization is hot dog water. Literally. Lukewarm hot dog water. So, let's get back to the placement on Vis. The placement on Vis, I would have to say, would be... This is so tough. We'll put him at the bottom of 1, but you're never winning a match against Icelex. You just know that. The only good thing going for him is he's good into everything else, right? He's dunking on this. He's going to lose against this, but that's fine. There won't be that many. He's good against this. He's good against this. Good against this. Well, okay. Actually kind of bad into this. Good here. Pretty good here no matter which way they go. At least he has game into both of them. So it doesn't really matter which way they turn. And he's good into Dromai. Literally, his good matchup into Dromai is the only thing carrying him. And so I would say he's at the bottom of 1, but man, he is barely there. If somebody wanted to take this list and put him in 1.5, I wouldn't disagree with you. Big Dragon is even now, Prodigy says. Holy shit. Well, man. Big Dragon's even now in Viscerai. If that's true, then he has to go down to 1.5. So, I don't know if, I don't know what's behind, Prodigy's testing. I know he's a good illusionist player, and I think there's validity in what he says, but I would say that if what Prodigy is saying is true, then he goes to 1.5. If not, if it's still favored Viscerai into Dromai, then he's at the bottom of 1. Okay? God, I want to put him in 1.5 so bad. So bad. Oh, yeah, you could just rip the card from his hand. Like the 1 blue. Like, yeah, okay. That makes perfect sense. Because unlike Briar, the Lost in Thought or whatever is it's good if you like get her only attack, but if she has 2 attacks in her hand, then you literally just did nothing. You just traded a card, right? But Lost in Thought against Viscerai, you could take like his only blue because there's like a kind of even split on where some of his attacks are his resource and stuff like that. Based off of that, I see where Prodigy's going. I'm going to put him at the top of 1.5. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Because you can rip the blue, you can rip his only attack. There's so many more avenues in which you can... And just the Ice Lexi is so bad. It's so bad. I think 1.5 is a good placement. I'm actually going to swap those 2 as well. Okay, I'm back and watched everything you said about Kano, and it was all wrong. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. But you're wrong, Justin. That's just a fact. I don't make the rules. I just put the heroes in certain square spots. That's it. That's it. Roll Tide. Okay. Let's keep the train going. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about Dromai. Let's talk about Dromai. There's no reason I scooted her up there. There's no reason that I scooted Dromai up there. So, like mentioned previously before, I think the biggest gain from Dromai this season is she gained anywhere between, I don't know the exact number, but probably anywhere between 5 and 10 sideboard slots with Oldham leaving the format. Now, what can the Dromai players do with those 5 to 10 sideboard slots? I don't have a fucking clue. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I got all the answers. Okay? What I am going to say is that if they can take those 5 to 10 spots and leverage them into ways to even up these matchups and, you know, make the Rune Blades slightly favored, like who's beating her up, right? There's not a lot of decks doing it. There just isn't. She's one of the decks that benefited the most from Lexi losing Bullseye Bracers. That was one thing that made the Lexi matchup kind of, you know, winnable for Lexi, was she could just have like that one big turn and there just wasn't shit, you know. There wasn't like they could just have that one big turn, Rain Rages 3 of a kind, and drop a bunch of shit and just like win the game, right? But now it's so much harder for that to happen. It's so much harder for that to happen. So she gains even more equity. Right? So, with that being said, where would I place the Dragon Mama? I'm gonna eat shit for this, right? I'm gonna put her behind Lexi, even though she can't ever fucking convert. I'm gonna say that she's at the bottom of tier 0. I'm gonna say she's one of the best decks in the format. I will say this. I'm going to preface with this. I think this weekend she will not have a great performance. I do not think the Dromai players have had enough time, nor have they been presented. So this is basically your new triangle, right? This is your new triangle. And this is the part that makes the tier list very, very difficult, right? Is if she goes ice, forces these guys defensively, then this is free 50, right? She just dunks on all 3 of them. Okay? If Lexi doesn't go ice and these go aggressive, they're going to dunk the shit out of her, right? And she's always going to beat Lexi. Like this, no matter which way Lexi leans, I think Dromai will win, right? But Lexi is going to be the one that steers these two either good or bad into Dromai, okay? So I think Dromai will perform very poorly this weekend because the illusionist players have not been presented a question to be answered. And these guys have not, I think most people that bring these decks have been so ingrained to play them offensively that they're going to just shut her out. the wall. Kind of strange considering she has a hard matchup into 80% of the. Well, like I said, if Lexi goes ice, then she's favored into all of them because it pushes these guys into a defensive posture. The two ninjas cannot race Lexi if she is ice. Okay? And where things currently stand, the ninja players are going to be driving this whole thing other than the Lexis, right? You're going to have to, when you're building your ninja decks, you're going to say, am I going to lose to Lexi or Dromai? I'm working on answering both, kind of. It's just very difficult, and I'm not there yet. I'm not even going to claim to be there yet, right? Katsu against Dromai is not nearly as bad as you think it is. Now, aggressive Fi into Dromai is just the worst ever, right? But Katsu into Dromai is not actually as bad as you think. Oh, Mara's here. Okay. So Mara's in the chat. Let me catch Mara up. Okay. So this is what I'm cooking with. You tell me what you think. So my placement on the top 4 heroes revolves around a couple data points, right? I'm in the belief that the Lexi will lean more toward ice, right? An ice package, a heavy ice package, which will force the two ninjas into a defensive posture, which means Dromai dunks on all 3. And Dromai is one of the best decks in the format, right? If Lexi does not go ice, then the ninjas remain aggressive because they now have the capabilities to race Lexi because she doesn't have bullseye bracers and have that explosiveness. And they will dunk on Dromai. Or at least Fi will 100% dunk on, and then Katsu will have a slight edge into Dromai. Right? So that's my thought process, and I'm truly on board with the ice package within Lexi. I don't understand why you would play the traditional list in Lexi, because you're going to lose the aggro matches, or you're not going to be as favored, and yet you're going to shut yourself. You're just going to lose against Azuri, right? Why would you auto lose into Azuri? Not auto lose, but like have an unfavorable matchup into Azuri just to go 50-50 with the other aggro decks? Doesn't make sense, right? So I hope the Dromai players can convert and prove me right, but I think Dromai is one of the best list or the best decks in the upcoming format. I think where historically Prism used to just destroy Dromai, that was all 100% of that notion was predicated on Luminaris. And Prism's new weapons dog shit. Okay, let's see what more I said. So interesting thing about that, the big dragon Dromai decks are better into ice than Empress. Both are still Dromai favored, but big dragon has and Empress is better into ninjas. But if the Lexis go ice and force the ninjas to go very defensive, then I would assume big dragon's way better. I would make the argument that defensive ninja would be favored into Empress Dromai. I don't have any reps to back that up. I'm just, Flick Flack is a hell of a card when you're playing a more aggressive, attack heavy Dromai list, right? But if they're defensively postured, then big Dromai or big dragon is just gonna dunk on them. They're not gonna have enough go again to sustain or keep the board presence at bay, if you will. So that I'm gonna put her in tier 0. Under Lexi, but tier 0. All right, let's talk about Azuri. Empress much prefers a slower ninja. That's interesting. That is so interesting. Prefers a slower ninja. I guess if the ninja was slower, why would you prefer it? So you could take turn. Okay. I understand. Maybe I'm on the same thought process. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Is that point? Is the fact that Empress would prefer a slower ninja is because you were paying less of an opportunity cost to acquire your ash? Is that the basis of that? Instead of like having to take 12 damage to make 2 ash, you now only have to take maybe 6. Is that the basis of it? If that's it, I can see it. I can agree. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about Azuri. Let's talk about it. Okay. Also, before we go into Azuri, just real quick, look at this tier list. Look at how many decks are in 1.5. Can we all just like appreciate what LSS is doing just for a second? Just, you know, look at how many decks have competitive value in the game currently. Do I see Viscerai winning a tournament? Sure, if he can dodge the Ice Lexi, sure. Same thing for Azalea. All these decks like have potential to win. I just want to say LSS is doing an amazing job getting the balance right. The ban on Bullseye Bracers was just perfect. It was just enough. Just because you nerf somebody don't mean you need to knock them down to the bottom tier, right? I just think that little sidebar. I think LSS is doing a very good job in the game right now to make a lot of decks very viable. So this may seem like these decks are very bad and these decks are very good, but I don't think there's a whole lot of space between them. I really don't. Okay, let's get back to Azuri. I'm off my side tangent, if you will. All right, Azuri. Well, one of her worst matchups went away. Right? The grandfather of eternity expired. Okay. Somebody left him on the counter out of the fridge or something. I don't know. But he's gone. So Azuri had one of her worst matchups go away, but her absolute worst matchup got a lot better. So I'm going to come out and say it. I think the Azuri matchup, I don't give a shit how you build Azuri. That matchup is 90-10 in Dromai's favor. I want to say it's like Illusionist Old School Guardian bad. Like it is awful. I've never felt so miserable in a game than playing Azuri into Dromai. It's the worst. Can an Azuri win? Sure. But a broken clock is right twice a day. Like it doesn't. It just is so terrible. Okay. Now, are you great into Lexi? Sure. You're still good into Lexi. Right? The problem is your leave no witnesses looks very janky when you have a frostbite. Right? Because then you're at a very tough decision point on like if they pump up an ice quake, right? You're like, okay, I need to eat all this damage to keep this other card to pitch. You know, you can go more blue, which the deck will probably do. But when you're doing that, when you make that deck building decision, like, oh, I'm just gonna turn some of my yellows into blues, right? To play around Frostbite. Well, that thought process is like the same mindset as saying, oh, well, let me eat shit for 6 matches in a row just to be good on the 7th one. Like, you can't handicap yourself that way. Like like I mentioned before, Viscerai could run Spellblade Assaults instead of Shrill of Skullform, right? Because it costs 1. You could play around with Frostbite. But then every other match, you're getting 3 less value out of the card. Or 2 less value. So, yes, she'll add some more blues. Do I think it'll make a huge difference? No. I think that this match, if Lexi goes, it's still going to be Azuri favored. Don't get me wrong, because Azuri has the fallback plan of just fatiguing if the Lexi's on ice. So I think Azuri will still be good into Lexi. Don't get me wrong. I think she'll be okay into the ninjas, but she just loses hard. So hard to Dromai. It's not even funny. So if I had to place Azuri, man, this is tough. This is probably the hardest one I've played so far. Azuri would. My knee-jerk reaction is here or here. You can make a point on either one. You could say here. You could say, here. You could say here. Gotta think for a second. That's tough. That is tough. You still have good disruption. Okay, maybe with the sideboard slots, maybe if you just say, I'm going to give this up and I'm going to double down on all this. Okay, I think she's got it. I think she'll be at the bottom of 1. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Matt. Bottom of 1. I agree. I think the Frostbites are going to be inconvenient. I think it's going to catch a lot of Azuri players off guard. But I'm sure they'll use some sideboard slots to like solidify that and make the ninja matchups a little better. And I think they're in a solid spot for sure. Okay. I'll keep her at the bottom of 1. The bottom of 1. Okay, let's talk about Dori. Okay. Dori's a very interesting one. Like, actually very interesting. Okay. Dori also got a lot of sideboard slots with the LLing of Oldham. She no longer has to, run. I mean, she will still run D-Reacts for like Bravo and stuff like that in Azuri. She can offensively race. There's leg where she can offensively race. Within the same Dawnblade list, you can race Lexi or fatigue her. That is a great combination. So this matchup, I'm going to say, you heard it here first, that matchup is Dorinthia favored. I think Dori is favored into Lexi. The ninjas, if they go defensive, are going to give Dori a lot of trouble. But I think Dori has a trick up her sleeve. I think that in certain matchups, I see a Dori list where you could put a Decimator in the sideboards. If there's any deck that can threaten to beat you via attrition, I think you just run it, Decimator Ax and try to win off of value there. The problem is you have to have like the go again and stuff like that, and enough of it has to carry over. So you need as little cards as possible that say target sword attack, like still, what says target sword attack? The new versus arm piece, stuff like that. Just minimize the number of cards that say sword attack, and then that way it applies to both. And just play Decimator. Maybe have a couple extra blues in the sideboard. And you might could beat these decks. Still iffy. The matchups are still probably like close to 50-50, maybe slightly unfavored for Dori. Azuri is an interesting one because if you can fit the Decimator Great Axe in a regular Dawnblade Dori list, then you're going to do to her what Oldham did. Literally, you're going to beat her at her own game. And you just fatigue her. Literally. And I just don't see how Azuri could beat it. I really don't. You just play a bunch of reactions, Decimator Ax, and say deal with it. Oh, you don't want to block? Cool. Give it go again, swing it again, right? It's not the most efficient thing, but you have lines built into a Dorinthia list that allows the ability to where if they ever try to set something up, you have the ability to punish, which is very important for any list that is trying to, operate and interact with both levels of decks, both fast and slow. So Dori has a lot of game into these 4 decks. Now, this is the interesting one. I don't think it's particularly Dori favored, but I wonder if there's something that can be done to improve it. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't got to that part yet. And maybe there's something here. Right now, I think it's slightly unfavored. Maybe even as bad as like 60-40 Dromai favored. And 160 viewers. Man, I didn't know that, but I just want to say that I appreciate each and every one of you guys just hanging out and being here. I really do appreciate it. So Dori and Dromai, I do think it's slightly unfavored for Dori. I'm just going to say I'm going to put Dori in the bottom of 1. No, we're not doing Saber Dagger. No shot. Yeah, Mara said, I'm still not sure who's favored. I think I'll lean Dromai, but then I know matchup pretty well. Yeah, I agree. Like, if it is unfavored for Dori, I don't think it's by much. And she just has game into a lot of this. So actually, call me crazy. I'm going to put her above Azuri. I think Dori is actually very good. And there's a lot of ways that you can build her. There's actually 3 different ways that you can build her that all achieve different things. And once the meta takes on a solid form, solidifies, I think she'll have an amazing way to target it. But with the one reason, so anybody that's seen Josh after he's played an Oldham match, he's a different person because he's literally trying to like mentally recover. Because there's so many things that you have to I can guarantee you that Josh has lost anywhere between 5 and 10 games in a high level tournament solely because he has played an Oldham match previously in the tournament. And he's just mentally exhausted. I can guarantee it. I don't know if he's in here right now and can back it up, but I've just talked to him like after he's played an Oldham match, and he's just like mentally recovering. There's so many things you have to keep track of, both on your side, their side. It's just a lot going on. And she doesn't have to do that anymore. And she gets a bunch of sideboard slots. So, like, it's a win all the way around. Okay? But currently, Dromai doesn't tech for the matchup. Yep. I think she'll surprise a lot of people. All right, let's talk about the last one that's not a newly supported or new hero in Dust Till Dawn. We're going to talk about my favorite, old chick on the wall. We're going to talk about good old Briar. Okay, so Briar's in a similar situation as Viscerai, but slightly better. The thought basis for that is aggressive Briar gets shut down by Ice Lexi, but anybody that's seen me stream, I usually run a more defensively postured Briar list that runs a lot of 4 blocks with embodiment, and you can simply fatigue Ice Lexi, I believe. And I don't like it's gonna be a cat and mouse game on like if they're regular Lexi. I think you just have to, just because of Lexi, I think you have to build Briar more defensively, which goes against what I'm about to say. You need to be more aggressive against these guys, right? You need to be more aggressive against Dromai. So she's between a rock and a hard place right now. She needs to go fast into half the meta, and she needs to slow down for the other half. And it's a problem, I'll be honest, I haven't been able to crack. I've tried to go back to those of you who have seen my Goliath Gauntlet 2 list, quote unquote beefy Briar, the one that plays Reaping Blade and throws like 3 for 7s and stuff like that. I've tried that list, but it doesn't beat Dromai. You don't have the action point equity to combat the board state. You don't have, a lot of stuff to win this. Now, Beefy Briar beats up on a lot of these, but you're going to lose to Dromai. That seems to be a case for a lot of these decks. And there's a very good possibility that Dromai just gets hated out of the meta because everybody's understood this, right? I think 4 times or 5 times during this tier list I've said, but loses against Dromai is always like the last ending of the sentence, right? And it's going to be very important for people to manage that and come up with answers and decide whether they want to be 30% into Dromai or make it a little bit better into 45 or whatever the case may be, right? It's going to be a very hard question to answer. Very difficult, very difficult. And Briar's in a spot where she can't answer that question. She just can't, right? So she's obviously behind Arachne. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Even if she was, I wouldn't put her there. Come on, chat. Jeez. Let me get caught up on chat real quick. She's got Runeblade cards with Go Again and all the other she can play, right? Literally, my armory is tomorrow at 7. I'm going in at noon, start playing games with Mello. Yep. They hate me out of all of them. Yep, absolutely. Good luck with the uphill battle. I believe in you. I believe in you. So yeah, I think that Briar is just between a rock and a hard place. I think you have to lean more defensively. And so I'm going to put her. The more I look at this, man, I really want to do this. I really want to do that. Nah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. That's my placement for Briar. Yeah. Better into Lexi. Still game into those. Game into these. Yeah. We'll put Briar there. Okay. This what? Yeah, you're 100% right. Even if Briar was in tier 3, I'm not putting her there. Hell no. I'll cut the stream off before that happens. Second, I'd just drop her in that spot, like lose power or some shit. Yeah, it ain't happening. Ain't happening. No, but I think this is a very honest and fair place to place Briar. I think you have to pick between defensive posture, aggressive, and there's a lot of things saying that. Bummer I missed earlier. What's the TLDR on Bolton? The TLDR on Bolton is bannerets are not as good as we thought. You can't run too many of them. 9 at most. It's not enough. And Decimator Great Axe is the only like super good improvement that Bolton got. That's the TLDR. So let's go ahead and get into Levia. Wiggle the antenna a bit and power come back. It's another inside joke from the Discord that you guys are not hanging out in, that you're missing out in. I can't plug it enough. Please come into the Discord, hang out in the general voice chat. We're always having a good time. We need more people to filter what Donkel says. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about Levia. Okay. Levia? Which one is it actually? Levia? I don't know. Either way. This is a hard one because I'm not sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I think an adequate representation of Levia is that she is a loaded gun with no target currently. I think she is a deck that has to be built reactively. It's very difficult for Levia to build a deck in a way to where it forces the opponent to answer the question. It can be, but I'm not Levia. Okay. Oh, but then somebody else said Leviathan. Oh, it is Levia. Okay. It's not Leviathan. Yeah, it's Levia. Yeah, Levia. Okay. Okay. Thanks, chat. You guys are clutch. Just watch the lore trailer. Levia. Okay, good. I'll start saying it correctly. Levia is a deck that I believe, this is my opinion. We obviously have the expert right here in chat that I'm sure would love to tell me what's correct or wrong. But it's my opinion that Levia has to have. Levia is typically built reactively. There's a situation in the meta that, because her mechanic revolves around her being able to do something, so she has to have a way that she could be built so that way other people trying to shut down her plan is negated by her doing something else. Okay? So, with that being said, once again, I think she's going to have a very bad turnout. 100% no top 8s in Cincinnati. Unless Ethan is playing. Then maybe. Just because she doesn't have an answer. Or she doesn't have a question that needs answering yet. She doesn't know what to answer. Now, so I'm going to place her a little lower than I would, but once the question is asked, I think she has a very good way. There's so many ways the deck could be built. It can be built slow, fast. It can be built, I have all team runaways on Levia. Then it can't be the worst. It can't be the worst. So, no, this is not her placement. I'm just putting her there while we talk about her. So, did she get a lot of improvements? 100%, right? The whole ability, the Demi is just an amazing thing that LSS has done development wise. I think there's going to be so many exciting ways to build onto that idea and everything. I don't think it's something like they're going to approach with every type of hero or anything, right? Because it has to be thematic, right? Like Dori can't just into fucking sword or something. Like it just doesn't make any sense, right? There's a lot of lore behind Levia and being consumed, not consumed. If you need to be brushed up on it, go to Ethan's channel. He's broken it down so many times, and it's very like flavorful, right? And so I just love the transformation aspect. It's amazing. So my placement, with as much pressure on me as there is right now, for Levia, I want to put her here. That's where I want to put her. Because that is where I'm going to put her. That's where we're putting her. I'm going to put her at the bottom of 1. Okay? Could she be higher? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I will say that this placement is giving a lot of credit to whoever figures her out completely, right? I think in an average tournament where there's no like really if there's tournament where there's like no specialists, like she's easily here, right? Easily there. But if you get somebody that's on a solid plan, has gotten a lot of reps in, has a lot of practice, I think she's right there. I don't think there's any reason why she isn't. And I'm gonna kind of pivot into this for just a second. Bear with me, chat. But if you notice, this is the second set in a row that has taken a hero from a very low spot to a much more higher or a lot higher spot, right? And I think that's how the game should be, right? I don't think they should print a hero and then everybody has to buy a bunch of product of the new hero to be competitive, right? There's nothing wrong with a new hero. Like, give me a second. I'm about to shit on these two heroes, right? There's nothing wrong with a hero being printed and them not being like in the top 2 tier. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I know we're used to it with the first few set, like Uprising, Phi just took off, and then Icelander shortly after, like we're used to that. And then Tales of Aria was a fucking, and Monarch was a shit show as far as like power creep and like play those heroes or get the hell out kind of thing. But I think we're back to a situation where like new heroes come out. They don't have the largest card pool. Card pool gets built on. And then they're good. That's actually the preferred way, because then you're rewarding the people that were playing her before, right? They have an advantage, if you will, because they have all the reps in before. Like if Levia does end up being, higher up in 1 or whatever the case may be, people like Ethan are going to reap the benefits of that because they stuck with it. They got a lot of reps in, and they're going to be able to capitalize on it. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be new hero, shit's broken. Like, we're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! We're playing the better card game. Okay? Can't speak for Magic. Don't play it. So, I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Either, but I played like some kitchen table stuff way back in the day. And like every time a set came out, your old deck was just shit. And that's not what we're doing here. We play the better game. Okay. So final placement, bottom of 1, in case anybody missed that part for Levia. Never want to go back to the carnival. That's a fact. That's a fact. And if you haven't checked it out, the Card Guys just dropped a podcast called Breakpoints. Head over there. Really appreciate it. If you give it a try, we have the same energy, just guys that like hanging out, shooting shit, provide some value. It's good stuff that we're doing over there. So if you don't mind, check it out. All right, so let's talk about Vinsset. Let's just get it out of the way. Just get it out of the way, okay? Chat, what I'm about to say, I guarantee you hurts me more than it hurts you. Okay? But she's not good. I'm sorry, chat. I'm not exaggerating when I say does she do something that's powerful and feels powerful? Yes. She does. Playing cards that historically you have to pitch a card for and get the same rate, if not even a little better, is great. The problem is it's the first line of her hero text. If that hero ability was a may and not a must, the hero's here. No question. And I'm sure the devs figured that out, right? I'm sure the devs, figured out that was just too good. So she's not. She's just not. And I'm not exaggerating when I said that I built probably 10 to 12 different decks, all different avenues, control, mid-range, aggressive, and everything in between. The problem is that if you don't, this is Vinsset in a nutshell. Just clip this and send it to everybody trying to work on Vinsset. Okay? This is the TLDR. If you build her too slow, you can just fatigue her. It's that simple. Just swing your damn weapon if she's trying to do a mid-range game plan of play a room gate every card or every turn. And then that's it. They can't flail you to death, right? Your Iron Rot legs get 3 value when you block flail with it. So with that being said, you have to lean more aggressive. You don't have to go balls to the walls aggressive, right? But what that does is it forces you into a more aggressive posture. And then, like I said earlier, you have all the downsides of being a Room Blade. A little bit of inconsistency. You have just Brick City every now and again, which is kind of the same thing. But you just have all those problems. But you don't have that explosiveness. And just to put the cherry on top, she's hard as shit to play. Like, it's one of the hardest decks to play in the game right now. Because it's one of the very few hero abilities we've ever seen where it's like, look, you're doing this. So every single turn you have to map out a problem. Right? And yeah, like there are tempo builds, but then then it falls back on if you do, which is where I ended up too. Everybody saw the stream last week. I was on a tempo/aggressive list as well. And you lose to a Frostbite. Plain and simple. Your whole premise is to get shit for free. And when somebody makes the shit not free, it's not good. Like, you lose the game. As simple as that. It's like, it's worse than Viscerai, literally. So you lose to Ice Lexi. Well, you literally have to use your action points on rune chant generation. Therefore, you suck into this deck. Do you have poppers? Sure, you have poppers. Guess who else has poppers? Fucking Oldham. But he lost to Dromai and he had twice as much. Okay? So I don't know who needs to hear this, but poppers into Dromai does not equal win. Okay? Good action point economy with a popper to make a pivot on key turns equals win against Dromai. I don't know who needs to hear that, but that's Value Town right there. Just let it sink in. Poppers don't equal win. Action point economy plus poppers equals win against Dromai. Poppers on key pivotal turns. Not trying to pop shit every turn. Not the plan. Okay. And just like Prodigy said, and I mentioned it earlier, the shit that you're using to pop is the shit you're trying to play. Like, it's your whole thing. It's what you're trying to do. Doesn't make any sense. The fuck is Down and Dirty going to do in Vinsset? Doesn't. Oh, it's so bad. So, I'm about to place Vinsset. And like I started this rating on Vinsset. Chat and all you, whoever was in here saying that I'm building it the wrong way, like, prove me wrong. I look forward to it. But I guarantee you this placement is going to hurt me way more than everybody in chat. Guarantee it. But I'm putting her at the bottom of tier 2. I think that's the reality of it. Her problem is look at the chain problem, right? The chain for anybody that played chain back in the day, anytime you sat across from a garden, you had a decision to make. Okay? Your decision was, are they trying to fatigue me or are they trying to outvalue me? Okay? Now, if you get the question wrong and you sideboard, to that answer that is wrong, then you play an unfair game. But if you're right, guess what? Guess what your fucking prize is? If you're right, you get to play a fair game. Okay? Now, Chain had the luxury of playing 14 cards a turn. Right? And doing so for free. Now imagine your Vinsset where you have the exact same problem. You don't know who's trying to fatigue you. You don't know who's trying to steal tempo from you. And then if you're right, you get to play a fair game. Hell no. Hell no. No shot. No shot, chat. Can't do it. I can't do it. It's just not. It's not good right now. Literally, Chris, you said it perfectly. I love Runeblade, and it pains me to put Vinsset down there. But I just think there's some fundamental and I'm not saying the hero is bad. Like I mentioned 20 minutes ago, or not even. It's okay for a hero to come into the game and it not be great. It's okay. It's not a problem. Let a supplemental set hit and like her get her Swarming Gloomveil and Revel in Runeblood. And like or let the meta mold in a way to where she doesn't have to worry about one of the aspects and she can just specifically target one thing. Then sure. But this is a tier list predicated on what I think the meta is going into. Okay? And that's just it sucks. It sucks, but I think she's there. I think she's there, chat. Unfortunately. Now, we got this other one. This other one. Prism, 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 Prism. Okay, for anybody that knows me, I have a passionate hatred for Prism. I will not let that influence this placement in any way. Guaranteed your money back. Good thing you didn't. Good thing you didn't pay anything. I don't. So there's a couple things we have to analyze, right? You no longer beat up on Dromai because you don't have Luminaris, right? So that's no longer free. Okay. With that being said, do you really beat up on Lexi? Your whole idea. Now, for those of you who don't know, I think the best list that I've seen of Prism is like the Iris, Heavy Aura. It's like Iris, Heavy Aura, Angel, and then you have like a Herald sideboard. It is basically yeah, it's like Control Prism with like a Herald sideboard. It's kind of like what I've been seeing. And you don't beat Dromai, you don't beat Lexi, I think. You're not beating these ninjas. Sure, you've always beaten Dori with ALS. You can have it. You probably beat Azuri because just spider bites suck. Like they're just not good. And she doesn't have much action point of or all her damage is on the last attack, which is the problem, right? And yeah, like she's not doing anything to anybody up here except for Dori, if we're being honest. And also, for those of you who don't know, there's this loop going around where you can, in quote unquote, infinitely recur ALS. Okay, I'll break it down for everybody. So what you do is you establish the board state of ALS and the Herald of Rebirth or Angel of Rebirth, the one that lets you put the card back on top. And the idea is you place down the ALS and then they have to run into it, right? There's nothing else theoretically that they could do on their turn. And then you attack with the Rebirth. You put the ALS on top, and then you would theoretically draw 3 blues. And then you'd be able to replay the ALS. They have to run into the ALS. So as long as you keep drawing, what is it? 2 blues and a yellow, you can just loop ALS. Okay. And yeah, probably it didn't get leaked. I mean, that's where everybody went to when they saw Rebirth. Like, it just, yeah, it was an easy one to see coming out. So basically, the only way to break it, because the Angel doesn't have Phantasm, so you can't like pop your way out of it, right? You have to either produce damage on your turn in some way. Yeah, Mara, I agree. I think everyone just found that one. I don't think it was particularly leaked, if you will. But yeah, and theoretically, you can lock a lot of decks down by doing that. But it just, yeah, you probably improved it with Genesis, if I had to guess, because then you can just do a lot more, or it's easier to accomplish. Yeah, if I'm guessing, Infinite Shields would be Genesis. you just add Genesis to the package, and then if you run Vestige of Soul, you can do it off of the 2 yellow pitches and go from there. So yeah, so it just, you're not doing a whole lot. I think this deck will see a lot of success until people start realizing you just block the heralds and you're fine. Just don't let shit go into Soul with the word Herald on the name of it, and you're pretty good. You actually don't need Genesis to establish it, but well, I guess yeah, you need the Soul replenishment. Well, I guess if you build, most of the time when that finally occurs, you usually have like 4 or 5 Soul to banish. But yeah, it's not very reliable. I don't think anybody's actively trying to lean into that. It's just something that a lot of people have found, right? So yeah, I'm not a fan of the ALS loop. I'm not. She starts at too low of health. She gets blown out by the aggro decks. Dromai beats her. Like I said, she's just bad into all these. So, people are gonna get mad, but I'm gonna put her at the top of tier 2 because tier 2 is yellow. No, I'm just kidding, chat. That's not why I put her. That's not why I put her there. But the weapon's no good, and I just haven't seen her perform well. And out of all those decks in the top, the only deck I wouldn't mind running into is Dori. And that is it. Real Prism tech is to use Iris so your auras are weapons. Then break all your equipment with cash out. GG, you're welcome. Tier 2 is where she belongs. Yeah. But yeah. That's where I place her, at the top of tier 2. And like I said, it's okay. It's okay that heroes come out, because all it takes for Prism is if a supplemental set comes along and she gets a majestic weapon and it's even like half as good as Luminaris, then she's on the table. Then we're talking, right? And yeah, it's okay for new heroes to not be great. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay? So I think this is where my final placement would be. I think that I do find it kind of funny that Rhinar started up here and kind of worked his way all the way down there. But I think this is good placement. This is where I would be for my tier list. Obviously, like I've mentioned before, a lot of these decisions are predicated on. But this was a supplemental set. Yeah, you're right. Well, she needs another one. She needs some milk or something. Because it ain't there yet. It ain't it. There's a lot of stuff. The biggest meta-defining thing that I can think of is whether Lexi goes ice or not. I think this looks a lot different if she doesn't. I kind of did all of my analysis on the basis that she does. But this is basically, if Lexi goes ice, this is where I think the format exists. Let's see. And if anybody in chat has any questions, let me know and I'll discuss them before we move on. Do you have the time to go over Bravo matchups in Tier 0 and Tier 1? I missed the chat earlier. Yeah. So Bravo into Azuri is fine. Like, you're probably favored. I don't think you're favored into Dori. And you're losing these on the basis of value. This is still like you can't play your fancy new card when she hits you with 3 frostbites. It ain't happening. Can you fatigue her? Sure, but that's a question that and then you're I mean you're losing these. This one's probably close to 50-50, maybe slightly unfavored. She's got the shunts. Probably favored here if you're built more defensively. This I have no fucking clue, to be honest with you. You could probably fatigue here, and this is favorable. All right. You sold me without selling me. I think Bravo goes a little up. Bravo will make sure the Rune Blades don't get too close. Your Lexi is really high. I think Bullseye Bracer was a very large hit, and what we'll see after Burn hit. Yeah, it was a very big hit, but she still is the best deck at asking a question other than Dromai. She says, I'm going to produce very efficient value-based damage. What are you going to do? Is that my work here is done? Yeah, very good at pointing that out. He definitely earns a couple spots because a lot of these aren't the worst. I'll tell you right now, like anybody, my first thought in building a deck right now is it needs to have a version that is at least good into Dromai, and then basically tailor it from there. I think Dromai is going to be a large part of this meta. I know we've said that before, and they never convert, but this is the time. This is it, chat. This is the list. This is the list. Bravo way better in diffuseless now. Can fatigue ice. I agree. I'm happy with my matchup. Absolutely. Ninja is tough. Yep. Yep. I agree with everything you said, Ed. I do agree. I just feel bad for the Bravo players that are. There's gonna be like some stubborn Runeblade players, and they're gonna like just say fuck it, I lose the ice, and they're just gonna dunk the Bravos. That's the problem. All right. So that concludes the tier list portion. I think we got time for like maybe a game or two of the Decimator Ax. We'll go over the deck list and play at least one game, guaranteed. But I'm gonna have to go on just a little 2-minute break. Just give me like a minute or two, and we will be right back to go over the Decimator Dori list. And also like why you should play the same list in Bolton, why you shouldn't, things like that. So give me 2 seconds and we'll be right back, chat. All right, chat. We back. We back at it. Okay, so we went over the tier list. If you wanted to see, if you're just now coming in and you want to see that, just feel free to scroll it back. We're gonna go into the Decimator Ax Dori list. Let's go ahead and hop straight into that. Okay. This is like the earliest version of this list. I have not spent a lot of time refining. So this is a concept list basically. I'm taking a value stance and kind of building upon it and going from there is what this is. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anything in chat while you guys look in amazement that there's a blue sharpened steel in the list. Play Kano. Nope. What's the advantage of Briar versus Viscerai? What's the opportunity cost? I love that you said opportunity cost. I'm all about that. The biggest difference is Briar can play defensively into Ice Lexi and win, whereas Viscerai loses to Lexi no matter how if she's Ice. Loses to Ice Lexi no matter what he does. That's the biggest thing. New build in our Discord has done well into Briar. If you're referring to Bravo, there's no shot. There's no shot. That matchup's 90-10 and nobody tell me otherwise. I haven't lost a Bravo match in probably 30, 40 games. Not exaggerating. Like dead ass. Okay. So here we go. Here is the Decimator Ax list. So what are we trying to accomplish with this list? Okay. That's question number 1. We're just trying to win via attrition, right? And how, for those of you who don't know, this is the whole reason I built this deck is because of this card right here. And I'm amazed that there's no yellows, no Singing Steelblade. I'll explain all of that. Just hang out for a little bit longer. So this weapon right here, okay, is the single most consistent highest value thing that you can do in the game right now. Right? Because if you swing the axe and they don't block, the opponent has 10 turns. Right? That's it. They're on a 10-turn clock. Minus some armor, sure. But if they block a card, which I think we're going to a meta where a lot of people are going to be building decks where they're effectively going to be playing very mid-rangey and trying to get value from blocks. And if they block, then no matter what they block with, they lose at least 1 block. But if it's a D-React, they lose 2 block, and so on. Right? Because the first time this is defended by a non-equipment card each turn, half the base defense of the target defending card. Okay. So this, if they block, always gets at least a value of 5. If they block with a card, if it's a D-React, get a value of 6 off of 1 card and no card from deck. That's extremely high value. Now, what else do we have in here? Okay, in chat, they said no Singing Steelblade. Well, it's not what we're trying to do. Okay. All we're trying to do, the basis of the deck, is to use these beautiful blue cards to swing this axe. Okay, we gain a little bit of life via Sigil and Fighting Spirit. Also doubles as a popper. We have some more poppers down here that block from Arsenal and block 3. Then we also have life gain from the heart. We have a couple go again cards, not a lot, just a couple. because Dori's ability can trigger on this axe, and if they try to set up, you can basically, swing it twice if you have a source of go again. And that's where these boots come in, right? So you block with refraction bolters. And if you hold 2 blues, then at any point in the game, you can just swing the great axe. They're never covering up all 4 unless they want to give us 2 cards, then we'll just hang on to them. If it hits, you pop bolters, give it go again, and you swing it again. So that's why we're running bolters. That's defined. I would love to run versus the new arm piece, but it says target sword. So we can't do it, unfortunately, chat. Hate to admit it. We have D-Reacts because we're trying to win via attrition, right? We have a couple cards like Out for Blood, Stroke of Foresight, Warrior's Vow, and Cleave that all have one thing in common. It's that they cost 1. Why do we want them to cost 1? Well, we prefer them to cost 0, which is why Iron Song Response and Sharpened Steel are in here. But we prefer them to cost 1 because we can play it off of Tunic. Right? We have the ability to Tunic counter into a Cleave for a 2-card 8, and then half the block of your first card, which is insane value, right? So that's the basic premise of the deck, is we're trying to win via attrition using the Decimator Great Axe. It's pretty simple. Like, there's not much to it. We're not doing anything fancy. We're going to arsenal one of these reactions. Whenever it's opportune time to play it, we're going to play it. Okay, so somebody asked the question of why can you quickly explain Decimator Bolton versus Dori? I can. I will hit that right now. And it all revolves around one card, and this is the Spice, chat. This is the Spice. Let's go deck. I think I have a Bolton right here. We obviously haven't finished yet, but I found a card. It is a light card of the blue variety. I forget the name of it. It's so important that I forgot the name. Here we go. This is the card. Okay. Cleansing Light Blue. Okay. Why is that card so important? Well, I told you earlier during the tier list, I said if Icelander ever became a threat to the meta, you would shift from Dori Decimator Ax to Bolton Decimator Ax. And it's because you can then fatigue the Icelander and blow up her Frost Hex with Cleansing Light. Simple as that. Simple as that, chat. If Icelander ever becomes a heavy part of the meta, you can use this. It just says destroy target blue aura. You just blow up the Frost Hex, right? Or if there's any reason where if a new card comes out and it's an aura-based card that really needs to be destroyed, you run Cleansing Light. This is actually a decent card. So that is the main reason you would shift to Bolton. There's a couple other things, obviously based on the list here and all its greatness of 5 cards. I haven't had the time to try to consolidate like a Decimated Great Axe Bolton with a little bit of charge. Like, I haven't got to that yet. I am going to try it. And that may be another reason. Maybe it's a easy way to incorporate a lot of go again into the deck for when you need it. But this is the main reason that I've found, is this is a great card that allows you to operate or interact with things that normally is very difficult to operate with Warrior. So that's the main reason. That card blows up Frost Hex, period. Yep, this one's going to be called No Credit Card Debt because he ain't charging shit. And this one's called Dori Not Sorry. Okay. So this is the list that we're gonna play. We're just gonna go ahead and jam like a game or two. Nothing serious. We're just gonna chill. So if anybody has any questions on what I went over um during the tier list, feel free to ask. I'm all ears. Ask away. And we're just gonna hang out and speak of the devil. Should have ran Bolton, chat. Should have ran Bolton. Unfortunately, here we only have like so many things that we can do. These could get us killed. We run almost 30 blues and we didn't draw a single one. Whoa, you can Courage Lumina with Axe. Unfortunately, you cannot. Well, one, Courage says discount by 1, so it doesn't make the Axe free. Second, also, Courage says target sword. So unfortunately, you cannot Courage Lumina the Axe. You can Lumina the Axe, but you can't discount it or anything like that. Unfortunately, I wish. Chat. Okay, so this is about as bad as it gets. We're just gonna have to swing as much damage as we can. We don't have any option. We drew the all red hand, unfortunately. So we are wide open here. And it looks like he knows what we're up to because he's running. Well, that's probably the best case scenario for us because that means we're only taking 3 here. He's got another one, I bet. Nope. We'll take the 3 damage. Why not? Yep. Go and win and move me. Cool story. We're getting all these reds together. Rough. This would be the worst. Thank God we have Remembrance. At least we can this matchup is definitely not favored when you're not on the Bolton version. If they even play the Frost Hexes, I'm not sure. We've drawn so many reds, I don't think we're going to have the Fatigue Avenue. I mean, I'm running literally like 30-something. Sure, I'll pay one. Why not? Just for you. Yep. And we get a lot more value here because it reduces the block. We're on 2-card hands, so we're going to get peaked. Or we force him into playing it, which is cool too. We should draw a lot of blues here. I would hope. CNC. Okay, and he's coming off an Arsenal, which presents a pretty good opportunity. We have a couple options here, actually. We can... I think we're just blocking 3, and then we're going to try to push this. Let's go to 7. We could take tunic counter, make it 10 if we want. Up to us. Also depends on what he does. But there's a very good chance that we just go ahead and rip this. Might as well. Keep that on top with some blue. And we get in 8 damage. But it's literally as simple as that. Just trying to win ye old value game. That is all. Okay, he's revealing a cold snap, which means he will 100% be waning moon next turn. Will be waning mooning next turn, which means we have the ability to just pay 1. I actually don't like that. I was thinking pay 1 and then the tax with 1 blue. Next turn, when he waning moons, we can negate all of it and still swing the axe. And then arsenal the warrior's valor as well. That seems better. I think that's better. Because he's also in Cold Snap, which tells us 100% that he will theoretically be. Now, there's Cold Snap, there's Guaranteed Waning Moon, which we held the blue for. Should just give me 1 card here, and then try his little Wounded Bull thing. Or no cards. That's cool too. So we're okay being at an 8 life gap difference, but it's not where we want to be a little bit more ahead than that. But we'll see what happens. Okay. With a card in hand, I don't understand this line. I actually don't understand this line. Why would he not block with another card? Okay, so we need to pay. So the swing's gonna cost 4. That's 4. So we can't AB this, which is okay. I've not created a solid sideboard plan for this matchup. Obviously, there's no valid reason on playing Remembrance. It's just theoretically better than, which, knowing that they're on the standard Woundable plan, Sink Below is obviously better. But I know a lot of Icelanders are experimenting with more just straight Arcane, Disruption, and I didn't want the Sink Blows to become red liabilities. Was the thought process there. Turns out I was wrong, but is what it is. Oh, we actually get the choice here. Well, in this case, you actually pick the brothers because if he does do it, then this would theoretically block for 2 instead of 4. So it's -1 here. It's -1 or -2 if he pays into it. So we'll pick the brothers. This should happen as he pays into it. So it should still block 2. Should not block 3. Because it says half, right? I guess you could layer it in a way because he's the attacking player. So maybe that is correct. I don't know. New interactions, chat. Interesting. We don't have the blue to swing again, unfortunately, but we are behind. It's unfortunate. I think we have to... I think we have to send the 7 instead, unfortunately. I can't think of any reason why we would do it any other way. Boy, if we were lower, this is the wombo combo. Oh, it's just base. That's right. I'm about to disappoint this dude. You can get my card. Imagine paying 2 cards to deal 3 damage. Imagine. Either way, then, if it was base, you only got 1 off of either one, so it didn't matter which one I picked. I was just hoping and dreaming. I think here we just go ahead and jam. So is there a valid reason to jam the 7 versus the 4? I mean, it's just more damage, but it costs a blue. There's no real reason. We're going to have an extra blue anyway. We can't overpower. We need a 3rd blue. So it's just send this. Yeah, I'll be in the voice chat after. I'm not sure if I'm going to do, if this is the last one or if I'm going to do one more. I just want to give the stream the idea. That tier list, I was having so much fun just talking about stuff and everything that I didn't realize it was going to take 2 hours to do the tier list. I'm glad it did, though. I had a lot of fun doing it. So we might call it after this one. And it is getting kind of late. It's like I've been going for over 3 hours now. I don't know what the standard is. Like, how long do streamers usually go for? I don't have a clue. What non-attack did he play? I don't even know. I will stop that damage. Oh, love this card. $12 hours. I saw that, Ethan. Yeah, 12 hours is not the norm. Not the norm. No shot. No shot. Not for me, anyway. That's a fact. Yep, we're just going to do our best to AB as much as we possibly can. And then we're going to arsenal this in attempts that he tries to make a last-ditch move, and we're able to throw his math off is the idea. So we're just going to put that in arsenal as long as possible. Go from there. You go until the subathon ends. Yep. This stream was very productive. We learned how to pronounce Levia. We did some tier list stuff, you know. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. Really do appreciate everybody being here, though. I can't say it enough. I really, really do appreciate it. I do not. I just want to discard. This one's a little tricky. I think we have to let it hit and then just discard, right? Discard that because there's no other way that we can play that and go from there. So here we have to like threaten the reaction, right? Is the idea here. I wonder if he's gonna make. I'm gonna go ahead and jam this because we want to put this into arsenal to attempt to win next turn. We'll see how that goes. Bro, if only we had Tunic. Well, no, we can't even Tunic it because we got the Frostbite. Sad. Oh, if only we didn't draw one blue in that hand, then this would be it. GG. But here I think we lose. He has no offense, so we might pull it away. Oh, we got blues, baby. We got blues, baby. Ooh, we can give it go again, guys. We giving it go again. Maybe. What we thinking? Like 33-ish blues for this iteration, Dori? Yeah, I think I'm at either 28 or 31. I built this deck very recently, so I'm not 100% sure. But relatively. So here we want to say no, we want to discard. And then we have the ability to A, B, 2. Then we don't have to pay the tax, even though it hit. He only has 1 card in hand, which means he's dead. Boop. GG. Chat. You do not play Phil Swing there unless you want to die. All right. So chat, we're undefeated. We're undefeated, chat. But that's the idea of the deck. I'm going to work on it some more, and kind of I'm so used to doing the talking part and then the guaranteed gameplay afterwards. I didn't realize that the tier list was going to go for so long. But once again, I'm so glad it did. I thought it was a very engaging conversation. We had Mara hop in, and you know, we had Ethan there for Levia. We had so many people come in and kind of give their viewpoints on whether they agreed, disagreed, whatever the case may be. For a list, I'm going to post it in, because the way we do it, I don't have permission to post a link in chat because I'm not actually on the YouTube account right now. Come into the Discord, DM me, I'll send you the list, or I'll just post it in the general chat of our Discord. So just hop in there and I'll post it as soon as I'm done streaming. If you want the list. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce the concept that I'm working on for Dori and Bolton, and you know, if it's something that you're interested in as well. I would say that's one of the worst matchups, and we actually got to pull out the win there, which always happy about that. Yeah, are there any questions from chat? It could be about anything. It could be about the Dori list, the Bolton variant, the card. It could be about the tier list. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions from chat before we call it? Haven't really played Dust Till Dawn editions or new heroes. So got to catch up. Yeah, I think we all are kind of in that boat a little bit, because I don't think there was one Flesh and Blood player except for Brody Spurlock and Michael Fang that weren't a little bit burnt out after Pro Tour 3, between like Pro Tour 3 and oh yeah. Also, before everybody goes, we have a show match on Friday with Team Blue Pitch, and it's so awesome. It's light versus dark. So we are going to be playing light heroes, the card guys, and then Team Blue Pitch is going to be playing shadow heroes. There's obviously not enough, so like they're adding Azuri and like Azalea, you know, like the dark thematic, and then we're adding like Dori and Lexi, you know, the people in the lore that are going to help defend Salon and stuff like that. So that's on Friday, the same time as the stream, so 9 p.m. Eastern. Come check it out. We're going to be live streaming it. It'll be a 5v5. And for those of you who don't know, Team Blue Pitch has some of the best players in the game. I'm talking Alan Lau. He went undefeated day one of both the Singapore calling and Pro Tour 3. Went undefeated day one. And you have Shing that got I think Shing got like top 16 at Worlds. Alan bubbled at 9th at Worlds. I mean, some Bun won Hong Kong Nats. Like some really, really good players. And it'll be an amazing time to be able to play against them. They're amazing guys, hilarious. It'll be so much fun. So check it out. We'll be streaming it live. It'll be on the TheCardGuyz YouTube channel. We'd love to have everybody. Do you have an updated version for the Briar pummel list? I'm working on it. I think there's some validity to that concept of Briar. The problem is, you guessed it, Dromai. I don't have an answer, and maybe there's an option to free up some sideboard slots because Oldham's gone. Don't need Remembrance anymore, things like that. I might be, but I am working on that. I will keep you updated, I promise. It has potential though. I'm was wondering if you think Spill Blood and Determination are good for closing games. I don't, because Decimator Ax like already affects them when they're, and that's why all the one cost are reactions, right? You're gonna have to block on their first attack. So they literally, if they don't want to die from any +3 reaction, they have to lay down 3 cards. And if they're laying down 3 cards, you win the game anyway. So you don't need the closing power of Determination and Spill Blood. How do you think the Dori list does into aggro deck like Fire Briar? Fi, it's okay because you can kind of operate on the axis of value against Fi. Briar, the list will have a little bit of trouble with the explosiveness of Briar. That's the deck's weakness is Viscerai and decks that could just throw 28 at you out of nowhere. That's going to be your biggest problem. Do you prefer axes or dagger saber Dori, and why is that? I don't like dagger saber in any of my list. I don't think it's a good enough combination to warrant. I don't think it's just not enough value there is the problem. So I'm on team. I like Decimator Ax, I like Hatchet Dori, and I like Dawnblade Dori, of course. What do you think the playability of Censor versus Warmonger will be? What is objectively the best Majestic in the set? And if you have to speculate on one. The best, well, when you ask that question, it kind of has the notion of like generic, right? Because we could say it's hard to say that. I mean, widespread destruction is nuts, right? But like that is it's hard to compare that to like the Figments, right? Like you can't set those next to each other and say which one's better. So assuming that you're talking about generic, I think Warmongers is and I say that with a grain of salt, right? I'm not on team Warmongers is amazing. Censor's good, don't get me wrong. But Censor only plays well, I think, into Defensive Ninja is like the only deck that really fits it. Because Tunic counter into that card's not really what you want to be doing in most decks. But Warmongers against a lot of decks, especially Rangers, you have the ability to really inconvenience a lot of decks, especially Rangers. And like Austin mentioned, it comes at very low opportunity cost, 0 cost, blue block 3, or if you play Briar, blocks 4. So there's just so many. It's kind of like this round's on me, right? Like it might not be the best card ever, but it does what it's supposed to do against good decks it's good against, and it's just a blue card, right? So I would say, and Meeps is actually pretty good too. I think Meeps will start seeing some play against very aggressive lists. I'm trying it in Briar. I'm not sold on it yet because 2 is a little low on the block side. But the 2 attack isn't the worst because when you add an embolism to it, it's a 5 anyway, which is your break point. The possible draw at a 2 less rate, I'm not sure if it's there. The only thing that card has going for it is it has Natty Go Again on it. That's the only reason I'm considering it in Briar. Because if you have a blue card, a Nimbulism, and that card, it's a 5 Go Again Rosetta Thorn. That's 9 on 3 cards, threaten to draw. It's okay. It's not the best. Is Battle Axe from Dynasty just Ripperoni? It's worse than Ripperoni. I think the axe from Dynasty is one of the worst weapons in the game. Simple as that. That's my opinion. I think the Battle Axe from Dynasty is one of the worst weapons in the game. Anything else, chat? Last chance. Seems weird to print a rare that's so much more relevant in a set that has slots as Majestic. Yeah. Well, I mean, half the Majestic slots got filled by damn figments. So a lot of that's probably got to do with it if I had to guess. But yeah. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. I think we got up to like 180, 200 or something. Just want to say I really appreciate everybody being here. And if anybody has any feedback, I'm all ears. Just hit me up in any way, comment section, message me, DM me on Discord, whatever, and just let me know what you like, what you don't like, what I could do better. I'm all ears for it. I'm just trying to provide as much value to everybody else as much as I possibly can. And hopefully everybody learned a little something. What's the best deck and why is it Levia? I'll tell you why it's not. No, I'm just kidding. In my tier list, I put her at the bottom of tier 1, which is the second tier because top tier was tier 0. So she's not bad. I think she's good, but she's got a lot of work to do as far as builds go. But thanks everybody for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a safe trip to Cincy if you're going, and good luck. Yeah, looking forward to watching it myself. I think Ethan's doing the stream support for it. It'll be exciting because Brody won't win this one too because I think he's casting it. I could be wrong on that. I think I heard that somewhere. But it'll be super exciting to watch. And hope everybody has a good one. And I will see